Chapter 1459. The 12 Zhu Wus have actually fused together. Seeing the blood of the 12 Zhu Wus fusing into an even larger humanoid creature, the sword-bearers in the void exclaimed in horror. What on earth have they fused into? Could it be that Ying Zheng has been reformed? Another sword-wielder guessed. No, I'm afraid this isn't Ying Zheng, but the legendary Pangu. Long Shi Jiandi said hesitantly, looking at the monster formed by the 12 divine fiends formation. Pangu? What kind of Yuan Ko is that? How come I've never heard of this name? Many sword-bearers shook their heads, indicating that they had never heard of this name. That is the legendary existence who once split heaven and earth apart and created the entire world. At some point, Liu Ling had returned to the group of sword-bearers, but behind her was Wen Meiyun, who seemed to be in a daze. It seems that Ying Zheng was right. The 12 Zhu Wus were indeed split from Pangu's body, and now they have actually fused Pangu together. Liu Ling said, clenching her fist. She knew that Gohan was facing a great crisis this time. Pangu, looking at the enormous existence in front of him, whose head held up the sky and feet stood on the ground, as if supporting the entire world, Gohan couldn't help but look up at it. Under the effect of the 12 divine fiends formation, the fused Pangu seemed to have lost its nature as a living creature. Its body was emitting dense smoke, and its eyes were pitch black. After letting out a series of thunderous gasps, all the objects around Pangu floated up in the air in an instant. Then, under Gohan's astonished gaze, all these ruins flew into Pangu's hands, and started changing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The change was the change of the original substance itself. These were the ruins of buildings, plastics, broken airships, and even some human corpses and flesh, but now, these ruins, which were composed of thousands of different materials, directly turned into the same material, a jet-black metal that looked like black gold. More and more materials began to gather in Pangu's hand. Finally, when more than half of the ruins of Yuzhong City were gathered in Pangu's hand, the gathering finally stopped. At the same time, an axe the same size as Pangu appeared in Pangu's hand. Pangu had directly changed the nature of most of the objects in the ruins of Yuzhong City. From more than 30 million different substances, they had all been changed into the same substance. Finally, they had combined into the huge axe in Pangu's hand, which was the legendary Pangu axe. Boom! Pangu still did not speak, but Pangu had already moved. Pangu raised the axe in his hand high, and then chopped down at Gohan in front of him. Pangu's attack speed is so slow. It looks like it's moving in slow motion. How can such an attack hit Hong Junjiandi? Seeing Pangu's attack, the sword-bearers, who had their hearts in their throats just now, were instantly relieved. Because Pangu's attack speed was way too slow, it took him a full 10 seconds to make a downward slash. Even an ordinary human could easily dodge such a slash, not to mention Gohan, who had a terrifying agility. In everyone's mind, even if Gohan had 2 broken legs, he could still easily avoid Pangu's attack, not to mention that Gohan was now in his peak state. But in everyone's eyes, Gohan stayed where he was, motionless, and then the axe chopped down on Gohan's body. Gohan was instantly smashed to the ground, creating a huge cloud of dust that covered the whole world. What's going on? Why didn't Hong Junjiandi dodge? He dodged it. Everyone looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. They could not understand why Gohan didn't dodge Pangu's attack when Pangu's attack speed was so slow. Of course, they would not think that Gohan was a fool who did not know how to fight. Otherwise, Gohan, who had defeated 12 Zhu Wu with his own strength, would not be able to fight back. Something that they did not know must have happened during the battle, so that Gohan could not dodge Pangu's attack at all. Gohan! Liu Ling called out worriedly. At that moment, the smoke began to gradually disperse and settle on the ground again. Everyone saw that Gohan was still standing in the same place, and he was lying on the ground like a dead dog. The sharp-eyed sword-bearers were horrified to find that Gohan, who was lying on the ground, only had half of his body left. The other half of his body had disappeared from his neck. Golden flesh and messy internal organs were scattered on the ground. He looked like a slaughtered pig. Gohan. Seeing this, Liu Ling felt her vision go black, and then she fainted. When a human's body was cut to such an extent, and there was no medical pod nearby that could heal him in time, even if he was an Emperor sword-bearer, he was basically sentenced to death. Look, Hong Junjiendi is not dead yet. His body is healing quickly. A sword-bearer's joyful voice pulled Liu Ling back from her coma. Liu Ling hurriedly looked at Gohan, who was lying on the ground. She was shocked to find that the remaining half of Gohan's body was growing rapidly. The flesh and blood were growing continuously. In less than 10 seconds, half of Gohan's body had grown back. Other than looking a little embarrassed and naked, he was no different from a normal human. Oh my God! Such a powerful healing ability. This healing ability is comparable to Zhu Wu's healing ability. Seeing this, many sword-bearers felt that their eyes had been blinded again. They never dared to imagine that a human, even an Emperor sword-bearer, could have such a terrifying physical healing ability. Fortunately, I have a consciousness fragment. Otherwise, I would have died just now. Having regrown half of his body, Gohan, who had been resurrected, controlled his trembling muscles and slowly sat up from the ground. It was true that Pan Gu had split him into two with his axe. If Gohan had not used the consciousness fragment to control his body's rapid recovery, Gohan would have died. This was the terrifying power of the consciousness fragment. Even if he had lost half of his body, he could completely recover within 10 seconds. This was a terrifying recovery speed that even a 12-year-old Zhu Wu could not achieve. According to Gohan's estimation, if he could improve his control over the fragment of consciousness, then even if there was only a small fragment of consciousness left, he would be able to completely restore his entire body. This was the terror of someone who was half a step into the Saint Realm, an existence that was almost completely undying. However, although Gohan, who was half a step into the Saint Realm, was terrifying, Pan Gu, who was in front of Gohan, was the most terrifying existence. Pan Gu's axe strike just now had frightened Gohan. In everyone's eyes, Gohan stayed in the air like an idiot, letting Pan Gu cut him into two with his axe. However, if someone could share what Gohan had sensed at this moment, that person would be horrified to find that it was not that Gohan did not want to run, but that he had nowhere to run. Just now, the moment Pan Gu wielded his axe, Gohan had already started running. He boosted his speed to an extreme, trying to get away from Pan Gu's attack range within a moment. In Gohan's senses, he had indeed boosted his speed to an extreme, and he could even see the surrounding scenery changing quickly. However, when Gohan stopped, he was shocked to find that he was still standing in the same spot, without moving even an inch. At first, Gohan thought that this was an illusion, but soon Gohan found out that this wasn't an illusion. His body had indeed been moving at an extreme speed. However, the space around him seemed to have been fixed, as if the space he was in had been separated from the space of the earth. This was a mysterious feeling, and even now Gohan couldn't clearly explain what had happened. However, the only thing Gohan knew was that he couldn't run away from Pan Gu's axe at all. He could only be cut into two by Pan Gu's axe, and there was no other ending for him. Fortunately, Pan Gu didn't seem to be able to use such a terrifying attack at will. Otherwise, when Gohan was healing his body, Pan Gu launched another strike at Gohan, and half of Gohan's body would be paralyzed. In fact, Pan Gu stood still, letting Gohan heal his body. However, as soon as Gohan finished healing, Pan Gu waved the Pangu axe in his hand again. This battle was a complete replica of the previous one. Facing Pan Gu's axe, Gohan also lost the ability to escape. He watched helplessly as Pan Gu's axe cut his body in half again. This time, half of Gohan's head was also split open, and snow-white brain juice flowed directly from Gohan's skull. This was an injury that even the medical cabin at the Immortal Sword Tier could not heal. The minimum requirement for a medical cabin at the Immortal Sword Tier was to keep a head, but half of Gohan's head was gone. Could Gohan really come back to life again? Master! At this time, under a sand dune not far away, a pair of eyes was watching everything that was happening not far away. Crystal tears flowed from the corners of her eyes. She wanted to rush up and help her master, who only had half a head left, but she couldn't move. Her body had been completely buried by the sand dune. Chapter 1460. Long Xiaoya did not know why she was buried under this sand dune. She felt that her abdomen was constantly beating, and at the same time, a sense of swelling kept wandering in her body. Long Xiaoya knew that she was about to give birth. This was the child in her stomach telling her that it wanted to come out. Therefore, Long Xiaoya decided to go to a nearby hospital to get a medical cabin to help her give birth on the way. As a result, when she changed directions, she was washed away by the surging crowd. Long Xiaoya suddenly could not find her mother anymore. What was even more tragic was that Long Xiaoya, who had a big belly, was suddenly knocked to the ground by a man running fast. She tried hard to stand up, but more people behind her did not care about the existence of a pregnant woman on the ground. Some people even directly stepped over Long Xiaoya's protruding belly. The great pain directly made Long Xiaoya faint. When Long Xiaoya woke up again, she was already buried under a large pile of sand dune. If it were not for a hurricane that happened to blow away the sand dune that buried Long Xiaoya's head, Long Xiaoya would have suffocated under the sand dune. But now, Long Xiaoya's situation was not much better. Her abdomen was still pressed by a large amount of sand, and what was more terrifying was that waves of pain inside her abdomen kept rushing at Long Xiaoya's nerves. Just when Long Xiaoya was about to faint again from the pain, she saw the scene of Gohan being split in half by Pengu's huge painting. She also saw Gohan's brain splattering like an exploding coconut. Ah! Long Xiaoya could not accept the scene in front of her at all. This heart-wrenching roar, and with this roar, Long Xiaoya instantly felt that her stomach was lighter. This feeling was as if the feces that had accumulated for 20 years were all poured out at this moment. I gave birth. Long Xiaoya, who was in the abyss of suffering, suddenly realized that the child that had been in her stomach for 20 years was finally born. At the moment when his father died, he was born. Resurrected. Hongjun Jiandi is not dead yet, he is still alive. His head is recovering. When the sword-bearers saw Gohan's head split in half and his brains splattering everywhere, they thought that Gohan was completely dead. Unexpectedly, in just a few seconds, Gohan's head had completed self-repair, and the rest of his body was still recovering rapidly. Perhaps it was because he had deliberately repaired his head, but his recovery speed seemed to be a lot slower than before. After 10 seconds, only half of Gohan's body had been repaired. But 10 seconds passed, and Pengu attacked again. Once again, Gohan was unable to dodge and was cleaved into 2 halves by the Pengu axe, and this time, Gohan only had 1/4 of his body left. 10 seconds passed, and the scene of Gohan being cleaved into 2 by Pengu's axe kept repeating. Although Gohan was extremely strong and tried to repair his body every time, the recovery speed of Gohan's body continued to slow down. However, the recovery speed of Gohan's body was slowing down, while Pengu's attack speed was always maintained at the rate of 1 attack every 10 seconds. What was more frightening was that Pengu would always aim at Gohan's head first. Therefore, every time Gohan finally repaired his head would immediately be chopped into pieces by Pengu's axe. The whole scene was like a ridiculous video replay. Don't do this. Liu Ling sat weakly in the void. Seeing Gohan's head being chopped into pieces again and again, Liu Ling felt extremely painful in her heart. She even thought that Gohan should just die like this, which was much better than constantly suffering the pain of being chopped into pieces. My child, Mommy must save you. You are Daddy's only child, Mommy must save you. Long Xiaoya, who was buried in the thick sand dunes, began to struggle to save herself. Or rather, she began to struggle to save her child. Long Xiaoya could feel a fragile life between her legs, but the sand dunes had already filled up the gap between her legs. If she did not let her child escape from the sand dunes, he would be suffocated to death by the sand dunes. No matter how fragile a woman was, after becoming a mother, she would have unimaginable power. Therefore, Long Xiaoya's body began to move even though she was buried under hundreds of kilograms of sand. Long Xiaoya slightly bent her legs upwards, hoping to use this to create a small space for her child to breathe. At the same time, Long Xiaoya's buried hands also erupted with unbelievable power, pushing the sand away bit by bit. In the end, when the sand that was buried in Long Xiaoya's hands was completely pushed away, Long Xiaoya's hands were finally freed, which also meant that the upper half of Long Xiaoya's body was freed. Digging the sand. Long Xiaoya began to frantically dig the sand around her lower body. As the thick layer of sand was gradually dug away, a smooth little head covered in wet, grayish-black, and extremely soft fetal hair finally appeared in front of Long Xiaoya. "Child, my child." Long Xiaoya grabbed her child's head, then forcefully pulled it out as if she was pulling a carrot. This newborn little life finally struggled out from the edge of death, and saw the sun from this world for the first time. "Child, my child." Long Xiaoya used all her strength to raise her child to the highest point, letting her child face the rising sun and let out its first loud cry since coming to this world. I can't make it. I really shouldn't have taken such a risk." Gohan's consciousness was actually a little chaotic at this time. Every time his body was repaired, it was not without consumption. Every time, there would be fragments of Gohan's consciousness disappearing. Although Gohan had billions of fragments of consciousness, in order to destroy 12 Zhu Wu's recovery ability, Gohan had already consumed a lot of fragments of consciousness, and every time he tried to resurrect his body, as many as tens of millions of fragments of consciousness would disappear. Just when Gohan was left with less than 100 million fragments of consciousness, he would completely lose the ability to resurrect after 2 or 3 more such attacks, and really die under Panga's axe. A loud cry faintly reached Gohan's ears. This is life. A child was actually born in such an environment. Gohan thought incredulously. He thought that everyone had died, but he never thought that there would be a survivor around him, and this survivor actually tenaciously gave birth to a new life. "Child, I'm sorry. It's all my fault." There was a bit of regret in Gohan's heart. The pregnant woman who was unwilling to escape into the void might have been looking for trouble and seeking her own death, but the child in her belly was innocent. He deserved such a fate. It was Gohan who harmed him. But this child's voice is so familiar. I seem to have heard such a voice in my dream. When did I hear it? It gives me a feeling of being haunted by it. Gohan was probably somewhat obsessed with the child's cry. He tilted his head, wanting his ears to hear the child's cry more clearly. Naturally, Gohan felt something fall on his head, but it did not attack his body. Then, his body flew out under the effect of some kind of impact. That was the attack of Panga's axe just now. Gohan, who was flying in the air, thought. I actually avoided the attack of Panga's axe. This time, Panga's axe actually did not attack me. Thinking of this, Gohan's entire consciousness trembled, and then his consciousness, which was about to completely dissipate, completely recovered. Gohan suddenly realized that he could move. His head had just successfully avoided the attack of Panga's axe, and his body could move. Why is this happening? Although Gohan's heart was full of such doubts, he did not have time to think about it. The remaining fragments of consciousness began to frantically repair his body. At the same time, Gohan's eyes stared at the blade of Panga's axe, while silently counting the time in his heart. 10, 7, 4, 1. In fact, Gohan did not need it, because the speed at which Pangu swung the axe was not fast. The moment Pangu once again raised the axe, Gohan once again heard the loud cry of the baby. Gohan's body, which had just been repaired, rolled on the ground in a strange posture, and then Pangu's axe fell on the position where Gohan was just now. Gohan once again successfully avoided the attack of Pangu's axe, and this time, the remaining 10 seconds were enough for Gohan to repair the rest of his body. Gohan barely supported his new body to stand up from the ground, watching the tall Pangu once again raise the axe in his hand, clang. This time, Gohan still did not escape, but Pangu's axe did not attack Gohan's body either, because Gohan simultaneously raised 2 sword ladies high in his hands, crossed them, and forcibly blocked the blade of Pangu's axe. So it is the power of creation. Only the power of creation of life can break through Pangu's seal. At the moment when Pangu's axe was blocked, Gohan's heart was clear. The remaining tens of millions of fragments of consciousness, at this moment, all seemed to have become seeds full of life, blooming a tender breath of life against the cold sun. Finally, I can see my path clearly. Such a sigh gushed out from Gohan's heart. At the moment of life and death, Gohan finally got a small part of what he wanted, and the rest of the things were placed in front of him for him to take. At the critical moment, it was this loud cry that not only changed the fate of Gohan, but also the fate of the entire human race. Chapter 1461. My child. Long Xiaoyao, who was struggling hard, suddenly felt that her hand had loosened. She knew that her child had been taken away. She immediately wanted to break free from the sand dune in horror and take back her child. However, after losing her child, it was as if Long Xiaoyao had lost all her strength. She could no longer break free from the sand dunes. Just as Long Xiaoyao was feeling hopeless, her body suddenly felt light. The sand dunes that were pressing down on her had all disappeared. She had regained her freedom once again. Master! At this time, Long Xiaoyao finally saw clearly who had saved her from the sand dune. She looked at Gohan in front of her with joy. After 20 years, she finally saw her master again. Master, aren't you? Long Xiaoyao suddenly remembered the scene of Gohan being cut in half by the giant axe. She immediately wanted to ask something in a panic. However, Gohan's hand gently placed on Long Xiaoyao's forehead and said faintly, "Don't ask now. Let's change places first." Long Xiaoyao did not understand what was going on. She felt herself being hugged by the cold, and the next moment, she was moved to another place. Long Xiaoyao looked back at the sand dune where she had been lying. The huge Pangu axe had already chopped down on the place where she had been lying, and the entire sand dune had turned into ashes. If Gohan had been a second late, Long Xiaoyao would have been the one who would have been split in half. Master! Long Xiaoyao was so scared that her heart was about to jump out of her throat. Gohan said with a smile, "Don't panic. It was just a fake stupid thing. It was easy to avoid." Master! It's good that you are okay. Xiaoyao's life and death are not important. It's good that you are okay. Long Xiaoyao said with a sobbing tone. It had been more than 20 years. With the appearance of Gohan, so many years of grievances and pain seemed to have disappeared. It's okay. It's okay now. Gohan comforted her again. Then, he looked at the baby in his arms. The baby's hair had not yet been removed. Looking at the baby's face, which was somewhat similar to his own, he already understood. This is my child? And Long Xiaoyao nodded her head vigorously. Then, she suddenly thought of something and said in a panic, Master, please don't misunderstand. I didn't do anything to let you down. This child was conceived when you left. I don't know why it stayed in my stomach for 20 years until you appeared today. I really didn't do anything wrong to you. Long Xiaoyao thought that Gohan suspected that the child was not his own. This was a very normal concern. After all, Gohan had been missing for 20 years. Who would believe that a child born 20 years later would still be his own flesh and blood? Say no more. From the moment I heard this child crying, I knew it was my child, because it sounded exactly the same as when I was a child," said Gohan gently. Then, he hugged Long Xiaoya, who was in a panic, and moved again. Pan Gu's Pangu axe smashed on the place where Gohan had been standing just now. "This place feels like it's connected by blood. This is my child." Gohan placed his hand on the baby's chest. As his father's hand pressed on the baby's chest, the baby who had been crying all this while quieted down in an instant. Then, the baby let out a giggle, and seemed to be very happy. "I didn't think I had a son." Looking at his own flesh and blood in his arms, Gohan couldn't help but sigh. This child was something that Gohan had never thought of. He didn't think that he had a son besides Gu Xuanwu. If he hadn't come back in time, this child would have died in this battlefield, and he would have regretted it for the rest of his life. This child. "Does he have a name?" asked Gohan, after teasing his own flesh and blood for a while holding Long Xiaoya in his arms and changing positions. "Not yet. This is Master's flesh and blood. I dare not name him," said Long Xiaoya with her head down. "Nonsense, you are the child's mother, and you have been pregnant with him for 20 years. Of course, you have the right to name him. How about this, you decide the child's name," said Gohan in an irrefutable manner. "Then can I call him Gu Fan?" Long Xiaoya said hesitantly, "I hope that this child can live an ordinary life." Gohan looked at Long Xiaoya with some surprise. Gohan was also familiar with Long Xiaoya's nature, and he was puzzled by Long Xiaoya's name. "Don't you like a vigorous life the most? Do you want to be a vigorous woman? After all, 20 years. People will change. I don't want to think about anything else anymore. I just want to be able to protect my child, and live the rest of my life normally," Long Xiaoya said from the bottom of her heart. "Gu Fan." Gohan looked at the child who was still giggling, carried Long Xiaoya to another place, and then sighed. "Let's call him Gu Fan. But I'm afraid this child won't be able to spend the rest of his life in an ordinary way. After all, he's my son." Gohan's eyes widened in shock. What is Hongjun Jiandi doing? Why is he chatting with a woman? Everyone watched as Hongjun stood up from the ground with a newborn child in his arms. He was chatting with the child's mother while casually dodging Panga's axe. Everyone was completely confused. They couldn't understand why the situation had suddenly changed 180 degrees. It was as if it had become a romantic drama. The great Jiandi was in a life-or-death situation, and in the middle of his final battle with the big boss, he actually started to talk with a woman, no matter how they looked at it. This was the standard plot of a romantic drama. Of course, there were some who looked at Liuyan Ling with a strange gaze. Everyone knew that Liuyan Jiandi's favorite man was the sword immortal Hongjun, who had disappeared for 20 years. The current Hongjun Jiandi. And in these 20 years, Liuyan Jiandi had continuously protected Hongjun Jiandi. Everyone treated Liuyan Jiandi as Hongjun Jiandi's wife, even though the two of them had never had an official relationship. Now that Gohan was suddenly being affectionate with this pregnant woman, wouldn't Frost Jiandi explode with anger? Unexpectedly, although Frost Jiandi's face was a bit sour, her emotions were very stable. She didn't look angry at all. Instead, it felt as if she had let out a long sigh. This made everyone feel very strange. Don't make wild guesses. I know this pregnant woman. She's Hongjun Jiandi's personal maid. Of course, there were also people who knew the truth. After all, Long Xiaoya had a bit of a reputation in Yuzhong City. There were quite a few people who knew that she was Gohan's personal maid. So she's his personal maid. Everyone revealed an expression of understanding. But soon after, they said with a bit of disgust, "But this personal maid is really annoying. She actually dared to betray her master and have a child with another man. This Hongjun Jiandi is a bit too magnanimous. He wore such a big green hat on his head, and he didn't even have the slightest reaction. If it were me, I would have thrown this damned woman under Panga's axe and killed this shameless bitch," one of the swordsmen angrily said. He felt as if he had been made a green hat. What do you know? The insider looked at the swordsman with disdain. This child was planted before Hongjun Jiandi disappeared. This personal maid has already been pregnant for 20 years. It's a super strange story in Yuzhong City. We never understood why this child refused to come out no matter what. But now we finally understand. This child was waiting for its father to be born. The insider sighed. Long Xiaoya's story quickly spread among all humans. Long Xiaoya instantly became a legendary figure that everyone knew. Master, let's leave this place. It's not good to keep hiding like this. Every 10 seconds, Long Xiaoya was hugged by Gohan and dodged Pangu's axe. She was probably very worried as she spoke. It's okay. This Pangu is just a fake. It's not a powerful thing. As long as you can see through his axe, it's just a useless fool. Gohan looked at Pangu disdainfully and said. Then he touched his son's forehead and sighed. But it's all thanks to this child. If it weren't for this child crying, I might have died. It's my son who saved me. Gohan lifted Gu Fan, who was in his arms, high up, just like the classic action in the anime The Lion King. Coincidentally, the moment Gu Fan was lifted up, a golden parabola shot out from Gu Fan's little bird and hit his father's face. Long Xiaoya was shocked by this sudden change, while Gohan laughed. At the moment when his face was hit, Gohan felt that he had really become a father. It's time to solve this problem. I'll leave the child to you. Gohan put Gu Fan back into Long Xiaoya's hands, then he pulled in the void. Lu Shihua, who still had a few tears on his face, walked out of the void. Just now, because Lu Shihua rashly rushed out of the void to save him and died under the attack of Panga's axe, Gohan directly imprisoned Lu Shihua in the void. It was only at this moment that Lu Shihua was released. Judging from Lu Shihua's tear-stained face, Lu Shihua must have shed a lot of tears just now. Gohan's decision to imprison Lu Shihua was extremely correct. Good disciple, Master's son and Xiaoya are in your hands. You have to protect the two of them, understand? Gohan said to Long Xiaoya. Yes. As long as disciple is alive, Master and Master's wife will be safe. Lu Shihua said solemnly. Okay. Gohan nodded, then hesitated for a while and said, Don't call her Master's wife, just call her Miss Xiaoya. Lu Shihua looked at Gohan in surprise, and Long Xiaoya lowered her head, as if she had accepted her fate. Chapter 1462. Now, it's time to take care of you, you stupid thing. After sending Long Xiaoya and Gu Fan away, Gohan coldly looked at Pan Gu, who was standing in front of him. If he couldn't free himself from Pan Gu's axe, he would lose for sure. However, once he freed himself from Pan Gu's axe, it would be time for this stupid thing to die. Sometimes, victory or defeat, life or death, could be decided by a single thought. Pan Gu's attack was still a simple axe move. Once again, Gohan nimbly dodged it. Next, both the Heavenly Sword and the Doyu Sword appeared in Gohan's hands. Gohan flew directly to Pan Gu's face and pierced the pair of swords into the spot between Pan Gu's eyebrows. Clang! Following that, Gohan's swords were knocked away. Oh, looks like I was wrong. Other than this axe, there's something else that's hard enough. After all, this body is indeed Pan Gu's body. Seeing that the two sword ladies couldn't pierce into Pan Gu's body, Gohan sighed. Why don't I try using two swords? Gohan took back the Heavenly Sword and the Doyu Sword, then pulled out the Immortal Killing Sword and the Immortal Exterminating Sword, piercing the spot between Pan Gu's eyebrows. However, even the legendary 4 Immortal Killing Swords were tightly clamped by Pan Gu's muscles, and even pulling them out took Gohan a great deal of effort. Damn it! This Pan Gu is too hard. Hongjun Jiandi can't hurt Pan Gu at all. Seeing this, the group of sword-bearers said worriedly. If even Hongjun's Sword Emperor's terrifying attack couldn't harm Pangu's body, let alone ordinary sword-bearers like them, then Pangu was truly invincible. Humans would be shrouded in Pangu's shadow for the rest of their lives. Indeed hard. This is Pan Gu's body. Seeing that his pair of swords failed to pierce into Pan Gu's body, Gohan didn't panic at all. Instead, he even showed a satisfied smile. Meanwhile, he reached out a hand and gently stroked Pan Gu's body, as if he was stroking a sports car that could drive any man crazy. What is Hong Jun Jiendi doing? Seeing Gohan's reaction, everyone was dumbfounded. They couldn't understand what Gohan was doing at all. Disperse. Suddenly, Gohan flicked the scabbard on his body and 12 long swords flew out of Gohan's scabbard. Finally, they stopped at 12 different positions. If one were to look carefully, they would discover that the 12 swords were positioned exactly where the 12 Du Tian Zhu Wu had been. In the next second, the 12 swords began to transform. The slender blades gradually transformed into slender, beautiful young ladies. In the end, the 12 young ladies with different looks, temperaments, and figures appeared in front of everyone at the same time. Oh my God! 12 sword ladies! Hong Jun Jiendi is indeed as the legends say. He is a terrifying Jiendi who has 2 sword ladies at the same time. Seeing the appearance of 12 different sword mothers, the sword bearers sighed in their hearts. At the same time, from the number of 12, they realized that Gohan had to have 2 Emperor Sword level sword mothers at the same time. What a terrifying fellow! He could actually have 2 Emperor Sword level sword mothers at the same time. No wonder he was so terrifyingly powerful. Hey, do you guys know these sword ladies? Tell me, who are the 12 sword ladies of Hong Jun Jiendi? Immediately, a curious sword bearer asked the person next to him. I have the information here. Immediately, a sword bearer took out his personal terminal and projected a picture. He pointed at the 12 different sword ladies in the air and explained, Look at the shortest lowly sword lady wearing a crocodile costume. She is Hong Jun Jiendi's first sword lady. She is also an ancient sword lady, Qinpin sword. She is currently the number 1 sword lady in the ancient sword rank. Hearing this, everyone nodded. So it was the number 1 sword lady in the ancient sword rank. No wonder she was so powerful. Only the strong could have such a powerful sword lady. However, these people did not know that Qinpin sword's ranking had risen later on. When Qinpin sword first appeared, it was actually the last among all the sword ladies in the ancient sword rank. That one whose expression is as calm as water, and who wears the simplest clothes is the passing water sword of the ancient sword grade. I heard that it's a sword Maiden forged by Hong Jun's sword emperor himself. Although it doesn't have a ranking, it's definitely one of the best of the ancient sword grade. Following this person's continuous introduction, everyone finally had a better understanding of the 12 sword ladies in the air. However, this person only collected some superficial information, so everyone only had a limited understanding. As for the rest of the story, they did not know. After listening to the introduction, everyone could not help but be curious. If they had not seen wrongly, in such an intense battle, Gohan had not used his 2 Emperor-level sword ladies. Instead, he had only used 2 treasure-level sword ladies. This made everyone feel strange. Why didn't Gohan use the Dharch sword and only use the treasured sword-grade sword lady? Of course, everyone was even more curious. What was Gohan trying to do by releasing his 12 sword ladies? Everyone, I'm going to rest. I'll leave the rest to you. After releasing his 12 sword ladies, Gohan seemed to let out a long sigh of relief. Then, he smiled and said to the 12 sword ladies, After holding it in for so long, we're finally out. I say, Gohan, you should have released us long ago. Then, you would have ended the battle long ago. We were almost suffocated in the scabbard. Celestial Extinguishing Sword said with a smile. That's right, Gohan is the most annoying. Staying in the scabbard is not fun at all. Qinpin also pouted. That's enough, you've appeared in front of everyone countless times. This is the first time you've appeared in front of everyone. Gohan, just keep them in your scabbards. If you let me out earlier, I'll at least have a chance to appear in front of everyone. A crimson sword maiden, who looked like a phoenix, said loudly with dissatisfaction. This sword lady's figure was the tallest among all the sword ladies. She was even a head taller than Gohan. She was at least 9 meters tall. Moreover, her figure was also the hottest among all the sword ladies. She had a curvaceous figure, a perfect combination of the devil and the flesh. The most unique thing about this sword maiden was probably her clothes. Her fiery red clothes were filled with drawings of mountains, rivers, grains, heaven and earth, astronomy and geography, and a series of prehistoric images. I believe that everyone has already guessed that this sword maiden is the Xianyuan sword, the ancestral sword of the human race. She has finally completed the synchronization with the solid cold and appeared in front of everyone. Is this person Pangu? He's completely different from what I imagined. The celestial extinguishing sword's frequency was completely different from the noisy Xianyuan swords. She stared deeply at Pangu, who was surrounded by them. Her eyes were filled with reverence and doubt as she muttered to herself. That's right. Is the great god Pangu this stupid thing that only knows how to hack? If the great god Pangu really looked like this, the world would still be a chaotic egg. The celestial extinguishing sword also looked at Pangu with a complicated expression. Not only the celestial extinguishing sword and the celestial slaying sword, but the celestial captivating sword and the celestial slaughtering sword also looked at the stupid Pangu with confusion and doubt. In fact, the 4 celestial slaying swords had very complicated feelings for Pangu. When the 4 celestial slaying swords appeared, Pangu had already split the world apart and used his life and flesh to forge the entire world. Therefore, the 4 celestial slaying swords worshipped Pangu from the bottom of their hearts. In their hearts, Pangu was like a totem and a belief. However, looking at the stupid Pangu in front of them, who only knew how to hack, this feeling made the 4 celestial slaying swords very unhappy. It was as if the idol in their hearts had been destroyed in an instant. Don't be stupid, okay? The real Pangu is already dead. This is just a stupid thing formed by the gathering of 12 pieces of flesh and blood he left behind. It is not the real Pangu at all. While dodging Pangu's attack, Gohan said helplessly to his sword ladies, "You have all memorized the 12 divine beings killing formation. Let's test it out now. I almost risked my life to help you fight for this opportunity." Okay, we got it. Xianyuan's sword waved his hand and shouted to all the sword ladies, "Sisters, let this stupid thing see our 12 divine beings killing formation." 12 divine beings killing formation. Hearing this name, all the sword bearers were stunned and asked themselves instinctively, what does Hong Jun Jiendi want to do? However, these sword bearers did not need to think for too long. As soon as Xianyuan's sword's voice fell, his body changed back to the shape of a sword in an instant. The other sword ladies looked at each other and also changed back to the shape of a sword. Then, just like the reappearance of the 12 divine beings killing formation, 12 strands of sword elements shot out from the tips of the 12 sword ladies and collided in the air. Then, these sword elements gathered together, and a huge sword the size of Pangu was slowly formed. Oh my god! My Kanzu! 12 sword ladies actually merged. This time, everyone, including Liu Yanling, opened their mouths wide and could not close them. No one had ever thought that the sword ladies could actually merge together, let alone 12 sword ladies at the same time. This huge sword was so simple and unadorned. There were no patterns on it, not even a hilt. Apart from its huge size, there was nothing special about it. It looked like a sword that could be bought for 10 yuan on the roadside. But at the same time, it had abandoned all decorations and complicated designs, and returned to its original state, the purest and most pure sword. This was the original form of a sword. Gohan gently pushed forward with his fingertips, and the huge sword directly slashed towards Pangu's body. With this slash, heaven and earth bloomed like a dream. Chapter 1463. Oh my god, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. After the strike, the Xianyuan sword let out a strange cry and fell from the sky, along with the other sword ladies. It seemed that the so-called 12 heavenly cycle sword ladies formation could only last for one strike. After that, they all disbanded. Who's your mother? She goes around calling her mother. The celestial extinguishing sword, who had also fallen, couldn't help but complain. If I had to analyze a mother, it would be Pangu? The Xianyuan sword looked up at Pangu, who was still standing in the same spot behind her. She couldn't help but stick out her tongue and say, "Damn it, I actually killed my mother. How disgraceful. Are you sure this impostor is dead?" The Heaven Reliance sword asked the Xianyuan sword as she supported her aching waist. "Of course, all 12 of us are together. There's no way this impostor wouldn't be dead," the Xianyuan sword said with a pout. As if to prove what the Xianyuan sword had just said, the towering Pangu behind them instantly collapsed. It turned back into 12 bodies and fell to the ground like the sword ladies. This time, it was naturally the 12 Zuwus that fell. However, what was strange was that after the 12 Zuwus split up, they didn't turn back into their original giant forms. Instead, they became the size of a normal person and fell to the ground. Coincidentally, the 12 Zuwus landed right next to the sword ladies. The 24 of them were mixed together in a mess. "We lost, our Pangu bodies, actually lost." The 12 Zuwus didn't die, but they didn't look too good. Some of the Zuwus struggled to stand up, but they couldn't. They could only lie down and look at the sky. A few drops of tears fell from the corners of their eyes. The 12 Zuwus actually cried. This was something that had never happened in tens of millions of years. Even at the end of the Great Shamanyao War, the 12 Zuwus hadn't shed a single tear. But now, the 12th Zuwu was crying. He was very sad because he was beaten by Gohan. Qing Pin looked at the 12 Zuwu who were crying beside him and said, "Useless fellas, they're actually crying. How shameless, what do you know? Our Pangu real body was defeated. The invincible ancestor Pangu was defeated. Our belief and the meaning of our existence is gone." Grand Wizard Xian Ming said with tears streaming down his face. The Wu people always considered themselves as descendants of Pangu, and viewed Pangu as their supreme ancestor. Now that their ancestor was defeated, the 12 Zuwu surely could no longer control their emotions. "Haven't you lost before? Didn't your Pangu real body lose to the demon race during the Great Magi Demon War?" Xianyuan's sword said disdainfully. "It was different back then." Dijiang propped half of his body up from the ground and said, "Back then, the two idiots, Zhurong and Gonggong, were tricked by the demon race and fought a great battle. Even half of Zhu Wu's blood bead was destroyed. After that, the demon race launched a surprise attack on us. Although we managed to form the Pangu real body, because of Zhurong and Gonggong, the Pangu real body wasn't complete. It didn't even have half of its current strength. So, the one who lost wasn't Pangu, but us 12 Zuwu. How can it be the same? Haha. That means the 12 of us are even more awesome than the demon race's heavenly court back then," Xianyuan's sword said proudly. "Who are you? How can you form the same team as us? And how can you easily break our Pangu real body? Who are you?" Gomang asked the sword maidens while panting heavily. "Of course we are sword maidens. Don't you know who we are after fighting us for so long?" Heavenly Sword rolled his eyes at the 12 Zuwu. "Yes, you are sword maidens. We were defeated by sword maidens." Gomang looked up into the sky and sighed. Then, he looked at the 12 sword maidens around him and could not help but say, "Speaking of which, it's strange. What kind of existences are you sword maidens? Why are there things like sword maidens in this world?" With Gomang's words, the sword maidens were at a loss. That's right. Why did sword maidens exist in this world? They couldn't figure it out either. Their existence is reasonable. If you want to doubt the existence of sword maidens, then you should first question your own existence. Why did you come to our world? At that moment, Gohan floated down from the sky and landed beside the group. He looked at the 12 Zu-Wu who were unable to get up on the ground. This was the first time Gohan was looking at these once lawless existences that ruled over the entire Earth from a level perspective. You win. We are defeated. Upon seeing Gohan appear, Zu-Wu Dijiang said directly. As for the other Zu-Wu, they lowered their noble heads, acknowledging their defeat at the hands of a human like Gohan. Is that so? Since you've already admitted defeat, I can send you on your way. Pay the price for your crimes. Gohan beckoned with his hand. Chinpin, who had been playing dead on the ground, instantly flew into Gohan's hand and transformed back into a sword maiden. The other sword maidens also transformed back into sword maidens and floated beside Gohan. Their sharp blades shimmered with blinding light. This was also the last light the 12 Zu-Wu saw. We have lost. We deserve to die. Dijiang nodded, seeming to accept his own death very much. He didn't have the slightest fear or resistance. He just asked Gohan with a faint look of doubt on his face. How did you dodge the attack of the real body of Pangu? How did you break through the defense of the real body of Pangu? I wonder if you can answer our questions before you die. Zu-Wu Dijiang looked at Gohan and asked very seriously. What if I don't answer you? What will you do? Gohan asked back. We will die with everlasting regret, Dijiang said with certainty. So even Zu-Wu knows how to make cold jokes. Gohan couldn't help but laugh. The reason why you Pangu can make me lose all ability to dodge is because the Pangu you created has mastered all the rules in the world. At the same time, you have controlled all the rules in the world and shrunk them to a point. That's why I can't dodge and can only let your Pangu attack me, right? Yes. Dijiang nodded, acknowledging Gohan's words. Then he said, But how did you break through all the rules in the world? As far as I know, it's only possible to not be bound by all the rules in the world unless you reach the realm of the sage and transcend the world. But I can see that you are still a human. You haven't reached the realm of the sage and you haven't transcended the world. You can't break through the shackles of Pangu. I don't understand this, so I die with everlasting regret. Fine, I'll show you for Panga's sake. After thinking for a while, Gohan suddenly reached out his right hand to Dijiang and opened his entire right palm. This is... Dijiang was stunned when he saw what was in Gohan's right hand. He clearly saw a small sword blossoming in Gohan's hand. It looked no different from an ordinary sword. Dijiang could break countless swords like this with one breath. The only surprising thing was that the sword seemed to grow out of Gohan's palm. It wasn't just being held in Gohan's hand. You mean, this is the sword that defeated us? Defeated Pangu? Dijiang looked at the sword and said in a daze, What sword is this? Is it the legendary 4 immortal killing swords? No. Just the 4 immortal killing swords can't break the real body of Pangu. Get this straight. That sword isn't the 4 immortal killing swords. The real 4 immortal killing swords are here, look carefully. Immortal extinguishing sword in sword form, suddenly said discontentedly. Pangu above, this is the real immortal extinguishing sword. Emperor Jiang looked up and was shocked to find that the sword that had just spoken was indeed the real 4 fairy killing swords. Others might not recognize the 4 fairy killing swords, but as the 12 ancestors of sorcery from the untainted land, how could they not recognize the sword that originated from Pangu's axe? Soon Dijiang found that not only the immortal extinguishing sword, but the other 3 immortal killing swords, immortal trapping sword, and immortal slaughtering sword were also floating beside Gohan. Gohan, this human, had gathered all the 4 immortal killing swords. As you can see, the sword in my hand isn't the 4 immortal killing swords, Gohan said with a smile, and Dijiang's gaze returned to the small sword in Gohan's hand. After a closer look, Dijiang found that this small sword was the one that had cut Pangu's body in half. But that huge sword had shrunk to an extremely small size, floating in Gohan's hand. If this sword isn't the 4 immortal killing swords, then what is it? Is there a sword stronger than the 4 immortal killing swords in this world? Dijiang asked in confusion. I think you know very well that there's no sword stronger than the 4 immortal killing swords in this world. Gohan shook his head and sighed. To be honest, in terms of pure strength, this sword isn't even as strong as the plastic sword I bought for 10 yuan by the roadside. Then why? You said it before, as long as I'm still in this world, I'll be bound by the rules of the world, and I won't be able to escape Panga's axe. But this sword is different, it doesn't come from this world. At this point, Gohan couldn't help smiling proudly. This is my sword, the first sword that belongs to my world. Chapter 1464. Your sword? The first sword in your world? Ancestral sorcerer Emperor Jiang, along with the other 11 ancestral sorcerers, couldn't help but tremble. Then, he looked at Gohan in a daze. Could it be that you've already reached that step? Don't tell me you can already create your own world? You can say yes, but you can also say no, or just a small step. Gohan shook his head slightly and said, I've only created a sword, nothing else. I'm still far from that realm. That's already very impressive. Zhu Wu Dijiang nodded and said with an extremely admiring expression, This is a realm that even sages pursue. You're not a sage yet, but you've taken a step further than sages in this world. You may become the new Pangu of the world in the future. How can there be such a terrifying human like you in this world? It's not embarrassing for us, the 12 Zhu Wus, to be defeated by you. Actually, I have to thank you all. Gohan smiled and said, Actually, before the battle with you all, I didn't even know what my own world was. Thanks to the battle with you all, I finally saw where my future path is. Is that so? The 12 Zhu Wu's smile became even more bitter. It felt like he had sent him down a brand new path. Oh yes, since you all have become the native Zhu Wus of this world, then lend me your Zhu Wu's blood beads. Gohan changed the topic and said, You want our Zhu Wu's blood beads? The 12 Zhu Wus were shocked again, and then looked at Gohan with some doubt and asked, Aren't you afraid that you'll be reborn in our body like that idiot Ingjing? If you have the ability, then I welcome you to be reborn. Gohan smiled and the 12 swords floating around him displayed 12 sword chi at the same time. The 12 Zhu Wu's bodies were instantly torn into pieces, leaving only 12 Zhu Wu's blood beads floating around Gohan. Return. With a shake of the sword energy in Gohan's hand, the 12 ancestral witches' blood beads were all put into Gohan's dimensional pocket. At the same time, the people in the void felt that the seal on the void had disappeared without a trace. Then the 12 void gates reopened. The humans who had been hiding in the void for 4 to 5 hours could finally walk out of the world of the void and once again stand on the ground of Yuzhong City. Although Yuzhong City had completely disappeared, leaving behind only a sand dune pressed down by the rules. Everything in Yuzhong City, be it steel, plastic, houses, cars, flesh, or plants, had all been crushed into sand by the extreme rules. Everything in Yuzhong City had disappeared. Master! In the next moment, Lu Shihua appeared beside Gohan with Long Xiaoya and Gu Fan. Gohan's body fell back just in time, and Lu Shihua caught him in time, preventing him from falling to the ground. Master! Seeing Gohan's incomparably weak appearance, Lu Shihua could not help but cry. Silly child! What's there to cry about? Master is tired. Let me sleep. Gohan muttered weakly, then directly closed his eyes and fell into a deep sleep, completely handing over his body to Lu Shihua. It must be known that Gohan's behavior was a little too bold. It must be known that Gohan had just killed Lu Shihua's younger brother, so he was not afraid that Lu Shihua would kill him to avenge his brother. When Gohan woke up from his coma, it was said that it was already 3 days later. If Liuyanling had not poured the remaining soul moon into Gohan's mouth after discovering that his soul had been greatly depleted, it was estimated that Gohan would have slept for another half a month or so. During the days that I was asleep, the situation was normal, right? No Yuan Ko came to stir up trouble, right? Gohan touched his slightly weak forehead and asked Liu Ling, who was beside him. There were. But they were all Yuan Ko who did not have eyes, and did not even have basic intelligence. They were easily dealt with by the other sword-bearers, and I did not even have the chance to attack. Liu Ling replied with a sigh. As for those powerful Yuan Ko, the news of you killing the 12 Zhu Wu, and even the real body of Pangu by yourself has already spread throughout the world. It is said that the people in the heavenly court were so frightened that they called back all their Yuan Ko outside, and then tightly shut the gates of the heavenly court. They do not even dare to step out, let alone cause trouble for us. That's good. Hearing Liu Ling's words, Gohan also heaved a sigh of relief. Actually, these 3 days are the time when I am the weakest. If they come to cause trouble for me at this time, I might really die in their hands. Don't worry, as long as I am still alive, you will not die. Liu Ling inadvertently said something that touched Gohan greatly. What about Yuzhong City? What's the situation there? Gohan asked again. Not good. It's terrible. Liu Ling shrugged and said, because of the battle between you and the 12 Zhu Wu, the distorted rules have turned the entire Yuzhong City into ruins and sand dunes. The 400 million people do not even have a decent tool in their hands. It is almost like they have returned to the primitive era. If it were not for the food stored in our dimensional pockets, people would have starved to death. Then, is there any hope for Yuzhong City to recover? Gohan asked again. The only hope is Yuzhong City's super-dimensional wall system. Because it is buried deep underground, it did not suffer much from the distortion of the rules. After digging it up and repairing it, it should be able to continue to be used. But if Yuzhong City wants to be rebuilt, it will take at least 10 years. All the modern equipment has been destroyed. If Yuzhong City wants to be rebuilt now, I am afraid we can only rely on digging shovel by shovel. Liu Ling replied. Sigh. It was me who harmed Yuzhong City. This city left behind by Yi Qingping. I didn't expect it to be destroyed in my hands. Gohan sighed deeply. As Gohan's mother, Yuzhong City was definitely the most important existence in Gohan's life. It was the place that Gohan always remembered to come out of the seamless corridor to protect. The dramatic result was that Yuzhong City was destroyed in the battle between Gohan and the 12 Zhu Wu. In fact, at the moment the battle began, Gohan had already expected such a result, but there was no other way. Since the battlefield was here, Yuzhong City was doomed. This is not a place to stay for long. Go to Long Shijiendi immediately and ask him to arrange for everyone to be transferred to Yanjing City immediately. I have been to Yanjing City before and found that most of the city is still in good condition. About 80% of the buildings and equipment are still there. As long as the super-dimensional wall system is repaired, Yanjing City should be able to return to its normal state in a month or two, and the lives of the 400 million people will be guaranteed. Gohan suggested to Liu Ling, I know, you have so many things to worry about. You have already become like this, but you still care about these things. Liu Ling knocked on Gohan's head. You don't need to tell us about this, we all know. Lu Shihua has already taken 10,000 sword-bearers to clean up Yanjing City. While repairing the super-dimensional wall system, they will also clean up the Yuan Ko who entered Yanjing City. As for us, we will migrate the remaining humans to Yanjing City, but the speed will probably be very slow. Apart from the super hovercraft in the sword-bearer's dimensional pocket, we have almost lost all means of transportation. It is estimated that it will take at least 3 months for all the survivors to reach Yanjing City. I am afraid it will be another bloody day on the way. 10,000 sword-bearers are enough to clean up Yanjing City. It is obvious that the migrating humans here need more protection. Although Yanjing City does need an Emperor Sword-level sword-bearer to hold the line, using Lu Shihua is a bit too wasteful. Let Long Jiandi be in charge of the migration and restoration of Yanjing City, and let Lu Shihua protect this place. Gohan immediately said, moreover, in Yanjing City, he can lie down and rest. There is no need for continuous action, which is more conducive to the recovery of Long Jiandi's body. Hearing Gohan's words, Liu Ling's face immediately sank. Her lips moved up and down for a while, but she finally sighed and said, His Majesty Long Jiandi has already soared to heaven. Even if you want him to rest again, you have no chance. Gohan was also silent. Although he had a premonition that Long Jiandi might not live for long, he did not expect that when he opened his eyes, Long Jiandi had already soared to heaven. How did Long Jiandi leave? When did he leave? Gohan asked with a pained expression. You can rest assured that he was very happy when he left. Liu Ling said faintly. He watched you defeat 12 Zhu Wu with his own eyes, saw humans return to reality, and then soared to heaven with a smile on his face. When he left, he did not have any regrets. That's good too. Gohan nodded. To be able to leave without any regrets was in itself a great fortune. Sigh, the old generation of Emperor Sword-level sword-bearers have already left. Fortunately, the new generation of Emperor Sword-level sword-bearers has been born. With you and Shihua here, humans still have a future. Liu Ling said faintly. Are you missing a person? Gohan looked at Liu Ling with some surprise. Are you talking about me? Liu Ling looked down at her old hands. I am already a person with half my body buried in the ground. Maybe tomorrow I will soar to heaven with His Majesty Long Jiandi. What does this future have to do with me? No. Have you forgotten? I've said it before, I can return your youth to you. Gohan smiled slightly, and then once again spread out his right hand. The small sword that grew in Gohan's hand swayed in the wind like a tenacious weed. Chapter 1465. Go! Gohan's fingertips moved slightly, and the small sword was sent into Liu Ling's body. The moment the small sword entered Liu Ling's body, her whole body stiffened, and she collapsed into Gohan's arms. Gohan hugged Liu Ling's body, and he fell asleep again. Where am I? My body is so comfortable. After wandering for a while, Liu Ling slowly woke up, and the unprecedented feeling brought by her body was so wonderful that Liu Ling didn't want to open her eyes. This feeling was like soaking in a spring with a suitable temperature. It was so wonderful that she didn't want to wake up. But in the end, Liu Ling still woke up, because Liu Ling wasn't a woman who liked to escape reality in her sleep. When Liu Ling woke up, she found herself lying in Gohan's arms, and Gohan was still sleeping soundly. Her face instantly turned red, like a bride who had just gotten married. But soon, Liu Ling put away all these shyness, and at the same time, warned herself in her heart, Liu Ling, what are you thinking? You're already an old woman now, and not only have you lost the ability to give birth, but you're also a person who's about to die. And Gohan is in the prime of his youth. Why do you still want to interfere? Are you worthy of Gohan? After such a warning, Liu Ling's original cheerful mood quickly disappeared, and it was replaced by an expression of old age, as if she had seen through everything in the world. Oh no! I've actually slept for a day and a night, and I don't know what the situation is like outside. Liu Ling looked at her personal terminal, and found that it was already a day later. Thinking about how there were still so many things to deal with in the process of the transfer, she immediately walked out of the tent where Gohan temporarily lived. Seeing that one of her subordinates who was in charge of the transfer happened to appear near the tent, she immediately raised her head and called out to him, and asked a little hurriedly, "How's the situation? Is everything going well? Did any accidents happen? Were there any ungrateful Yuanko who attacked us?" To Liu Ling's great surprise, when this subordinate turned around and saw her, he was completely stunned, and stayed in the same place like a wooden man. Liu Ling asked several questions, but never got an answer, as if he had lost the ability to answer. "What are you doing? Are there flowers on my face? Answer my questions," Liu Ling said a little impatiently. The subordinate finally recovered from his shock, and pointed at Liu Ling's face, and said with a trembling body, "Your Majesty Liu Ling, your face, your face. What's wrong with my face? I know that my face is an old woman's face. You don't need to be so shocked, aren't you tired of looking at it?" Liu Ling touched the most painful part of her heart, and angrily scolded the subordinate. "No. I didn't mean it like that. Your Majesty, your face. Your Majesty, you should look in the mirror yourself. You can change back. I'm really too happy. I'm too happy." The subordinate had already reached the point where he couldn't speak coherently, and tears began to flow from the corners of his eyes. Could it be? Liu Ling remembered what Gahan had done to her before she fell asleep, and an unbelievable thought began to form in her mind. However, there was no mirror in Liu Ling's dimensional pocket, because ever since Liu Ling had grown old, Liu Ling had thrown away all the mirrors on her. "Point your gadget at me. Take a picture of me. Quick." In a moment of desperation, Liu Ling quickly thought of a solution, and immediately ordered her subordinate to take a picture of her. The subordinate's reaction was also very fast, and very quickly the picture was taken. When Fleeting Maple saw the familiar face in his subordinate's gadget, 2 drops of tears silently flowed from the corners of Liu Ling's eyes. "This is my face. Is this really my face? You're not lying to me with my old photos, are you?" Fleeting Time Rin touched his own face in disbelief when he saw himself in the photo. Through her hands, Liu Ling could clearly feel that her old and loose skin was no longer there. What replaced it was a smooth face that was filled with collagen. How was this an old face? It was the face of an 18-year-old. No, a 16-year-old girl. Fleeting Time's Rin took a closer look at the picture, and realized that not only had she regained her youth, but she had even regained her youthfulness. She had regained the appearance of a 16-year-old girl, just like herself when she was 16. Liu Ling's screams attracted the attention of the people around her. When they looked at her, they were all in a daze. Some of them were like the subordinate from before, and some of them even shed tears of excitement. After all, humans were grateful animals. Everyone knew what Liu Ling had sacrificed for humanity, and when they saw Liu Ling's old appearance, they felt sorry for Liu Ling. Some of them even prayed in their hearts, willing to exchange their youth for Liu Ling's youth. However, everyone knew in their hearts that this was no ordinary aging. It was the aging of one's body being deprived of vitality. Such aging could not be recovered by medical pods. It was just like how medical pods could revive a person who only had a head left, but could not revive a person who had a complete body but had reached the end of his lifespan. So when they saw that Liu Ling had regained her youth, they were shocked, and they all shed tears of joy. They were moved by the fact that Liu Ling had regained her youth. Seeing the reactions of the people around her, and then looking at her new smooth arms and body, Liu Ling could finally confirm that she had regained her youth. "Congratulations, Your Majesty Jiandi." One of the sword-bearers suddenly began to clap, and the other sword-bearers followed suit. Very quickly the entire camp was filled with applause. "Thank you everyone! Thank you everyone!" Liu Ling thanked the people who were clapping for her, and then began to escape from the crowd. She ran towards the few buildings in the camp. Because Yuzhong City had already been turned into a sand dune, it was not suitable for a camp to be set up, so the camp was set up in a place outside of Yuzhong City. And because all of the construction equipment had been destroyed, most of the buildings here were temporary tents. There were only a few wooden houses. These wooden houses were used as the most important administrative and medical department of Yuzhong City. Apart from the largest wooden house that was the temporary camp's administrative department, the rest of the wooden houses were the camp's hospital. However, because all of the medical equipment was gone, the hospital was filled with medical pods. These medical pods were all donated by the sword bearers themselves, and were used to save the survivors who were injured in battle. And the sword bearers who donated these medical pods were faced with a situation where they would not be able to receive effective medical treatment if they met with Yuan Ko. However, this was not a big problem, because the humans' activities were limited to the temporary camp. At any time, other sword bearers could go and help. As long as they did not stray too far away from the camp, there should not be any life-threatening danger. And as one of the leaders of the human race, Liuyan Ling naturally had to set an example. She also donated her own immortal-ranked medical pod, and placed it in one of the wooden houses. After entering the wooden house, Liuyan Ling immediately found her own medical pod. Fortunately, the medical pod was still empty, and no one was inside. Just as she was about to lie down, a stern voice suddenly called out to Liuyan Ling, "What are you doing? Do you have an appointment? If you don't have an appointment, you are not allowed to enter, otherwise I will call the police." A doctor said dutifully. Liuyan Ling turned her head to look at the doctor, and when she saw Liuyan Ling's face, the doctor was clearly shocked. He mumbled to himself, "Miss Ling? No. Your Majesty Liuyan, why are you here? Why are you? That's enough, what's with all this nonsense? I'll go in for a checkup, and you'll watch over me from the outside. Get the medical pod to check my body thoroughly. Especially..." Fleeting Time's face flushed, but he insisted, "Especially my fertility. I want to know if I can still..." Fleeting Time's face reddened, but he persisted. "Especially my fertility. I want to know if I can still this." "Your Majesty Frost, to be honest, I am only a doctor that was recruited at the last minute. I was only a first-year student in the medical school. I am only responsible for guarding these medical pods. I do not have the ability to operate and use the medical pods. Why don't you wait a moment? I will go find a doctor to help you check," the doctor said with a troubled expression. "Understood. Then hurry up and come back quickly." Liuyan Ling nodded, and then laid down in the medical pod, immediately entering a drowsy state. As if he had been granted amnesty, the doctor ran out of the wooden house. Not long after, he pulled another doctor wearing a white coat and walked in. After seeing who was lying in the medical pod, the doctor's face revealed a strange smile. Then, he operated the medical pod. After carefully checking the data displayed by the medical pod a few times, he forcefully knocked on the medical pod's glass cover and said with a smile, "Wake up, my Miss Ling, are you done checking?" Liuyan Ling woke up from her dreams, but when she looked through the glass cover of the medical pod and saw the smiling doctor outside, her entire body instantly froze. "Song Yifei, why are you here?" Liuyan Ling cried out in shock. Chapter 1466. It's hard for you to still recognize me. I thought that our great Frost Jiendi had already forgotten about me, his former friend and love rival. Song Yifei said with a strange smile on his face. These words made Liuyan Ling blush. She couldn't help but say, "How can we be love rivals? Gohan was never mine, humph. If you weren't my love rival, then Gohan would have given you the most precious Genesis sword seed in order to help you recover. Otherwise, with that broken body of yours, you would have died in a few months. You wouldn't even have the appearance of a 16-year-old girl. What a pity. Gohan went through so much trouble and sacrificed his own life just to condense the Genesis sword seed from 12 Zuwu's body. And now he's wasting it on you. Who knows how long Gohan will have to wait for the next time he condenses the Genesis sword seed. Maybe because of you, the entire human race's future is over." Song Yifei said with a cold smile. "Song Yifei, explain it to me. What do you mean by that? What Genesis sword seed? What human race's future?" Liuyan Ling pushed open the glass cover of the medical bay and jumped out. She looked at Song Yifei anxiously and asked, "I'm too lazy to answer that question. You should go ask that idiot Gohan yourself." Song Yifei shrugged and then added, That's right, as a doctor, I still have to explain your condition. What condition? Liu Ling was a little confused. Song Yifei continued. I'm very sorry, your body is very healthy right now. There's not even a single bacterium in your body. Plus, you're full of life and all your functions have returned to normal. If you want, you can have a litter of puppies with Gohan. Are you satisfied now? What the hell? What litter of puppies? What do you mean have a litter of puppies with Gohan? You actually called Gohan a dog. Liu Ling's face instantly turned red. When she raised her head to look for Song Yifei, she found that he had already disappeared from the medical bay. There was also a faint feeling of the void in the air. Clearly, Song Yifei had already left through the nether gate. What the hell is this? Liu Ling saw that Song Yifei had disappeared and her face was filled with confusion. Then, she suddenly thought of what Song Yifei had said about them being a bunch of puppies. She suddenly became hot again and blushed from head to toe. It was so sweet. Ahem! Liu Ling quickly came to her senses. Looking at the doctor who had led Song Yifei into the medical bay, and then watching the confrontation between Liu Ling and Song Yifei, she could not help but become gloomy. Then, she scolded him sternly, Come here. Let me ask you, what's wrong with this doctor? How did she become the attending doctor here? Don't you know? How much risk will it cause to the hospital to let an outsider in? Will it cause such a great danger to the patients in the hospital? It's none of my business. I'm just a helper. I don't know anything. Hearing Liu Ling's scolding, the unlucky doctor completely panicked and said in a sad voice, When this hospital was first established, Dr. Song Yifei was already here. I was only transferred here to help later. I heard from other seniors that Dr. Song Yifei appeared during the Battle of Zhu Wu 5 days ago. And I heard that Shihua Jiandi sent her here personally. He said that her medical skills are superb and can help many people, so... Alright, you don't have to say anything more. Since Shihua Jiandi sent her here, it's useless for you to refuse. Liu Ling sighed and directly left the temporary hospital. Judging from the fact that Song Yifei was sent here by Lu Shihua, it was probably not Lu Shihua who sent Song Yifei here, but Lu Shihua's teacher. When did Gohan hook up with Song Yifei? I didn't know that Gohan came back until 5 days ago when Ying Zheng ascended the throne. But Song Yifei was already here that day. Doesn't this mean that after Gohan came back, the first person he went to was Song Yifei, not me? Thinking of this, Liu Ling's face suddenly darkened. A strong smell of jealousy began to spread in the temporary camp. Come. Open your mouth. When Liu Ling returned to Gohan's tent, she saw a scene that made Liu Ling even angrier. That damned Song Yifei was holding a bowl of porridge and feeding Gohan mouthful by mouthful. At this time, it seemed that Gohan had released all of his sword maidens. Most of them were not in the tent, only Qinpin, Douyu, and Qidian were in the tent. What made Liu Ling even more surprised was that Qidian's sword, the only legal wife of Gohan and also the one who was extremely jealous of Song Yifei, looked at Song Yifei's existence calmly, as if it was already used to Song Yifei's existence. Gohan, you must explain to me clearly what is going on. Today, you must tell me clearly what happened in that seamless corridor, and what happened after you left it. Liu Ling said angrily. Sigh. Seeing Liu Ling's angry expression, Gohan could only sigh and say helplessly, My dear Miss Ling, can't you speak to me calmly after I gave you the Genesis Sword Seed and gave you back your youth? Thank you. Thank you. Liu Ling's expression froze, but she quickly thanked Gohan sincerely. On this point, Liu Ling was indeed very grateful to Gohan. Otherwise, if she continued to live like this, Liu Ling would probably find a place to commit suicide. Fine. I had to tell you sooner or later, so I'll take this opportunity to tell you everything I can. Gohan looked at Liu Ling gently, then patted the bed beside him, and Liu Ling walked over obediently. Song Yifei glared at Gohan unhappily, then threw the bowl away and said, Alright, I'm not interested in listening to what I've already heard. You two chat, I'm going to play with Lil Fan. I'll play with your son until he's satisfied today. After saying that, Song Yifei angrily went to play with Gu Fan. Gu Fan and Long Xiaoya's tent was right next to Gohan's tent, and at this time, Long Xiaoya and Long Xiaoyao were wholeheartedly taking care of their poor child. One could imagine how pitiful Song Yifei would look when he angrily played with the poor baby Gu Fan. Tell me. I'm listening, Liu Ling said faintly, while Gohan caressed the heads of Qinpin and Douyu, who were also sleeping soundly on the bed, as he began to narrate the story unhurriedly. Of course, he began with the story of what had happened in the seamless corridor. Everyone already knew these stories, so there was no need to repeat them. Of course, Gohan did not tell Liu Ling about I Ching and Artoria. He only told her about the strange space-time setting in the seamless corridor, how he had left the seamless corridor, how he had entered the lost dimensional space, and how he had returned to the whole world through the dimensional rift. What? You're saying that you're now a Yuan Ko? Your body has been contaminated by filth. When Gohan said that there was filth in his body, Liu Ling was completely shocked. She looked at Gohan in disbelief and said absent-mindedly, "This isn't a good thing. Why would I lie to you? Why would I lie to you?" Gohan sighed and raised his right hand at the same time. If one looked closely, one would notice that Gohan's right hand was trembling slightly, as though he had a mild form of Parkinson's disease. Did you know? Gohan looked at his right hand and said, "If it wasn't for my willpower resisting the filth, I would have already slashed your body. No wonder all the Yuan Ko have become the enemies of humanity. The filth's control is simply too strong, so strong that even my willpower can't resist it. Do you know why I had to send all the humans into the Void Gate?" Gohan put down his right hand. "Actually, I lied at that time. I could have moved the battlefield outside of Yuzhong City. But if I didn't find an excuse to send all the humans into the Void Gate, I was afraid that the strong desire to kill humans during the battle would affect my mind at any time. I might even be unable to control myself from attacking humans. This is also why I had to let Lu Shihua enter the void. At the most critical moment, I even had the thought of killing Lu Shihua and Long Xiaoya, as well as my own flesh and blood." Gohan. Hearing Gohan say this, Liu Ling's heart was instantly infected with grief. She did not expect that the mighty Ling, the unstoppable Gohan, had to secretly endure the torture of the desire to kill humans. If such a desire to kill could really not be resisted by all the Yuan Ko, then Gohan's willpower was too terrifying. "It's okay. Actually, it's not a big deal." Gohan smiled. "It's fine as long as I'm not distracted. When I'm not distracted, it's quite easy to suppress the filthy desire to kill. But this is not a long-term solution after all. Gohan, is there really no way to get rid of the filth in your body?" Liu Ling asked worriedly. "Of course it's not a long-term solution. If it weren't for Ying Zheng's death, I wouldn't have appeared in Yuzhong City so soon. I originally wanted to go to the Freedom City first and find the mayor of the Freedom City, who is said to have gotten rid of the filth's control with his own strength. I wanted to see if I could find a way to get rid of the filth in my body from his Yuan Ko, who knows filth the best," Gohan said. Liu Ling nodded and rearranged what Gohan had said in her mind. Then, she suddenly thought of something and looked at Gohan strangely again. "According to what you said, you returned to the real world when the 12 Zhu Wu were about to besiege Yuzhong City. That means it's been almost 2 months since then. Where have you been for almost 2 months? Why didn't you appear earlier?" "I had no choice. Song Yifei suddenly appeared in front of me." Gohan smiled bitterly. "And she also told me that Lu Shihua was with her. If I didn't leave with her first, Lu Shihua would definitely die." Chapter 1467. Let's go back in time to 2 months ago, when Gohan had just returned to his world. After saving the poor siblings, Gu Han escorted them all the way back to Yuzhong City. Yes, that's right, Gu Han had indeed returned to Yuzhong City at that time. At that time, there were still 3 days before the 12 Zhu Wu's siege. At that time, Gu Han saw that Yuzhong City was still standing tall and the super-dimensional wall system was at its peak. Gu Han let out a long sigh of relief and prepared to bring the siblings into Yuzhong City. In the end, when they approached the gates of Yuzhong City, Gu Han's footsteps stopped because Gu Han felt a bone-piercing chill from Yuzhong City's super-dimensional wall system. It was a chill that kept people at a distance. It was a chill that told Gu Han that Yuzhong City did not welcome Gu Han. Of course, Gu Han knew why there was such a chill. Now Gu Han was no longer human. His body flowed with filth from another dimension. He was now a Yuan-ko. Naturally, he was rejected by the super-dimensional wall system because the super-dimensional wall system was protecting humans. The super-dimensional wall system was only fulfilling its original duty. Gu Han could not even enter Yuzhong City now. This was because if a Yuan-ko wanted to enter Yuzhong City, he would need the cooperation of an Emperor sword wielder or a sword wielder with an Emperor sword. Although Gu Han already knew that Liuyan Ling was in Yuzhong City, to be honest, it was still a challenge for Gu Han to tell Liuyan Ling that he had become a Yuan-ko. Therefore, Gu Han let the siblings return to Yuzhong City on their own. However, they were not allowed to reveal that he had returned to the real world. After that, Gu Han was lost in the forest outside Yuzhong City for a long time. When Gu Han had almost made up his mind to let Liuyan Ling pick him up, a sudden void fluctuation interrupted Gu Han's thoughts. Under normal circumstances, a fairy sword wielder could only sense void fluctuations within a radius of 50 kilometers. However, as someone who had mastered void rules, Gu Han could sense the void within a radius of 500 kilometers. Therefore, Gu Han could easily sense that a fierce battle was going on more than 200 kilometers away from Yuzhong City. At the same time, Gu Han also discovered that one side of the battle was a human sword wielder, and the other side was 2 Yuan-ko. Although he could not completely sense the level of these two sides, since they could continuously travel through the void, they were at least at the sword fairy level. Of course, Gu Han could not just watch as the human fairy sword wielder was attacked by Yuan-ko. Without a word, he rushed over. When Gu Han saw the two sides fighting, he could not help but be a little stunned. This was because one side of the battle was actually someone he knew. It was Song Yifei, whom he had not seen for a long time. Ever since he knew that Song Yifei had followed Ming Yuan Jiendi and become Ming Yuan Jiendi's disciple, Gu Han had not been in contact with Song Yifei. However, he had never expected that Song Yifei would be attacked by 2 Yuan-ko. There was nothing much to say. Based on their previous friendship, Gu Han had to help Song Yifei. At this moment, even though Gu Han did not recognize the Yuan-ko who was attacking him, judging from their attire, they were all dressed in traditional samurai attire. From the looks of it, they should be the Yuan-ko from Fusang. "Let me help you." Without a word, Gu Han directly pulled out his celestial extinguished sword and rushed into the battle. "Who is it?" The 2 Fusang's Yuan-ko felt a huge pressure the moment Gu Han joined the battle. They could not help but take a step back and looked at Gu Han in panic. At the same time, Song Yifei also saw the face of this man who suddenly jumped out to help her clearly. Then, the sword lady in her hand lost its balance and fell into the void. At the same time, she said in a trembling voice in disbelief, "Gu Han? It's you. You're back? Are you really back? You finally don't want to treat me with that cold face anymore?" Seeing Song Yifei's true feelings, Gu Han's face also showed a smile. He still remembered that when he met Song Yifei last time, she looked at Gu Han with a cold face the whole time, as if she did not know Gu Han at all. Now, seeing Song Yifei's excited face again, Gu Han felt a lot better. His old friend was not a puppet of Ming Yuan Jiendi. She should still have her own feelings, and she was still a human. Gohan? Is his name Gohan or Gohan's sword immortal? After hearing Gohan's name, the two Fu Sang's Yuan Ko began to talk to each other in confusion. I don't know, in our information, there doesn't seem to be a human sword bearer named Gohan. One of the Fu Sang's Yuan Ko said. That's right, I also remember that there is no immortal sword realm sword bearer named Gohan. Definitely not. Before we came out, we already went through all the human immortal sword realm sword bearers, and there is definitely no one named Gohan. The other Yuan Ko said. Could it be that this guy has recently become an immortal sword realm sword bearer, and was originally a spiritual sword realm sword bearer? The previous Yuan Ko guessed, and this guess was also agreed by the other Yuan Ko. They unilaterally thought that Gohan was a spiritual sword realm sword bearer who had advanced. It seems that I, Gohan, have not appeared for 20 years, and the Yuan Ko have completely forgotten my name. A cold smile appeared on Gohan's face. In fact, these Yuan Kos could not be blamed. When Gohan was at the peak 20 years ago, the Fu Sang's Yuan Ko did not have much interaction with humans, and Gohan had never fought with the Fu Sang's Yuan Ko. Of course, the Fu Sang's people would not remember Gohan's name. After all, the Yuan Ko's lifespan was too long. If they wanted to remember the names of the immortal sword realm sword bearers born in each era, the heads of these Yuan Kos would not be enough. What? 20 years ago? At this time, hearing Gohan mention the time of 20 years ago, a light bulb suddenly flashed in the mind of a certain Yuan Ko. He remembered the scene of the Fu Sang divine system attacking Yuzhong City 20 years ago, and the scene of the entire Fu Sang divine system being defeated by Yuzhong City's counterattack. His whole body shivered instantly, and he asked in panic. You are Gohan, Gu Xuanyuan's brother. Legend has it that you are a immortal sword realm sword bearer who is more powerful than Gu Xuanyuan, and the sword bearer who killed 200-level Yuan Ko. God had pity on them. These two guys finally remembered the name of Gohan. Chapter 1468. Run. Cunning had been integrated into the character of the Fusang people since ancient times. So when they remembered the existence of Gohan and his former fame, the two of them made the best decision in an instant. That was to run away, desperately run away from Gohan, the further the better. They were not confident that they could be stronger than the two Hung-level Yuan Ko. But how could Gu Han let these two fellows escape? Moreover, with Gu Han's current strength, it was impossible for these two fellows to escape. There was nothing much to say about the specific process. Anyway, after an easy battle, the two Fusang Yuan Ko were completely controlled by Gohan. Then he dragged them back to his side, looked at them coldly, and said, Tell me your names and your purpose. Did we answer your question? Will you spare our lives? The two Fusang Yuan Ko looked at Gohan with eager eyes and asked. I can spare your lives. Gohan smiled slightly. But you can't stay in this world anymore. I will send you back to your own world. You can't stay in this world anymore. What? You can really send us back? Wu Zhangshi really didn't lie to us. The two Yuan Ko said in surprise when they heard Gohan's words. When Gohan heard this name, Gohan's body trembled violently. Wasn't Wu Zhangshi already dead? According to Gohan's understanding from the brother and sister, Wu Zhangshi had died before the 12th Zhu Wu was unsealed. It was said that he went to Fusang Island to find something, but was ambushed by the Fusang Divine Branch. In the end, only his sword lady came back, while Wu Zhangshi died completely on Fusang Island, without leaving any bones. This matter caused an uproar in the human society at that time. Under the leadership of Lu Shihua, the whole Yanjing city also held a commemoration event for Wu Zhangshi to commend his contribution to mankind. So almost all humans could tell Gohan with certainty that Wu Zhangshi was dead. But now, from the two Yuan Ko's mouths, Gohan actually heard Wu Zhangshi's name again. How could Gohan not be shocked? In the face of Gohan's subsequent interrogation, the two Yuan Kos were quite cooperative. They told him everything they knew, and no matter what Gohan asked, they answered immediately. And to be able to do this, unless the two Yuan-Kos had a plan in their minds to deceive Gohan at the same time without revealing any flaws. Then, the two Yuan-Kos were telling the truth, and they did not deceive Gohan. And Gohan believed that the result should be the latter. It turned out that these two Yuan-Kos were Fuso's U-level Yuan-Kos. One was called Oda Nobunaga, and the other was Inuyasha. Although these two came to this world, they were very nostalgic for their previous world, and were eager to return to their original world to fulfill their dreams that they had not yet achieved. Gohan was not familiar with these two, but from their conversation, he could tell that this Oda Nobunaga seemed to have been burned to death in another world, so he was eager to resurrect and kill those who dared to kill him. As for this Inuyasha, it seemed that he still had an enemy called Nirvana that he had not killed. Anyway, these two Yuan-Kos did not want to stay in this world, and were eager to return to their original world. Then, a month ago, they met Wu Zhongshi. According to the two of them, Wu Zhongshi actually built a city on Fuso Island, and there were thousands of Fuso humans living in this city. Because of the filth in their bodies, these two Yuan-Kos naturally wanted to kill all these humans. As a result, the two of them were defeated by Wu Zhongshi unarmed, and were even captured alive. These two Yuan-Kos originally thought that they were dead, but Wu Zhongshi did not kill them. Instead, he took the initiative to talk to them, and as soon as he opened his mouth, he pointed out the two Yuan-Kos' Achilles' heel. He asked them if they wanted to return to their original world alive, and not as corpses. This sentence completely poked the two Yuan-Kos' Achilles' heel. Of course, they couldn't wait to tell Wu Zhongshi that they wanted to return to their original world, and Wu Zhongshi asked them to arrive at a specific location one day a month later, and beat up a human swordsman who stayed there. As long as they started fighting, they would definitely be able to return to their original world alive. After that, Wu Zhongshi took the initiative to let these two Yuan-Kos go, and did not say anything else. But this sentence was like a kitten's paw, constantly scratching the hearts of these two guys. They felt that Wu Zhongshi seemed to be lying to them, but they also felt that there was no need for him to lie to them. In the end, with the thought that their lives were picked up anyway, and it would be fine if they died, the two actually ran to the vicinity of Yuzhong City. According to the location given by Wu Zhongshi, they actually found a human swordsman who was waiting for something in the same place. This human swordsman was undoubtedly Miss Song Yifei, so the battle naturally began. But just as the battle entered the most intense stage, Gohan jumped out and scared the two Yuan-Kos with just his name, which led to the following scene. This was also the reason why these two Yuan-Kos immediately gave up all deception and concealment when they heard that Gohan could send them back to their original world safely, and poured out everything they knew. Because they knew that this was Wu Zhongshi's prophecy coming true, and their dream of returning to their original world could finally be realized. That's right, I believe you are not lying. I will fulfill my promise now. Gohan glanced at his personal terminal, then nodded, went beyond the starting point sword, found the dimensional node on Inuyasha's body, and then slashed down with the starting point sword without hesitation. Under Oda Nobunaga's and Inuyasha's surprised gazes, a dimensional vortex directly appeared above Inuyasha's head, and then sucked the living Inuyasha into it. Finally, he completely disappeared. It's really done. We can really go back now. Seeing Inuyasha disappear in front of him, Oda Nobunaga said with great joy and excitement, as if he had already seen the time when he would leave. But in the next second, Oda Nobunaga's heart was pierced by a sword. At the same time, the demon heart that condensed all of Oda Nobunaga's power was also crushed by Gohan's sword energy in an instant. Why? Why did you kill me alone? Oda Nobunaga looked at Gohan in disbelief, gritting his teeth and asking. Because in my personal terminal, there is no record of Inuyasha killing the swordsman, and there is not much human blood on him, so I let him go. As for you, A total of 12 swordsmen and more than 1,000 people died in your hands, and this does not include those deaths that have not been recorded. Do you think I will let go of a guy like you who has committed heinous crimes against humanity? Gohan sneered. A debt of blood can only be paid with blood. Chapter 1469. So, it was your master who asked you to wait here? After sending off the 2 Yuan Ko from Fusang, Gohan set his eyes on Song Yifei. Putting aside the joy of not seeing each other for a long time, it was very strange that Song Yifei would appear here. What was even more strange was that Song Yifei happened to meet Oda Nobunaga and Inuyasha, who had been arranged by Wuzhang Shifang to attack. At the same time, the fluctuations of the battle directly led Gohan over. If there was no deliberate plan in this, Gohan would not believe it even if Gohan was beaten to death. Sure enough, Song Yifei straightforwardly admitted to Gohan that she was indeed ordered to come here by her master, Mingyuan Jiendi, and the purpose was very simple. Her master asked her to wait for someone here. When she met Oda Nobunaga and Inuyasha, Song Yifei almost thought that her master asked her to wait for these 2 guys. In the end, she never expected that the person she met in the end was actually Gohan. Now it seemed that Mingyuan Jiendi asked Song Yifei to wait for Gohan, and the 2 Yuan Ko were just 2 tools to attract Gohan. Mingyuan Jiendi and Wuzhang Shifang are also colluding? After learning these 2 pieces of news, Gohan further speculated. Wuzhang Shifang's fake death was already very suspicious, and now he was colluding with Mingyuan Jiendi. Could it be that Wuzhang Shifang had also followed in the footsteps of Mingyuan Jiendi and betrayed the human race? For a moment, many things went through Gohan's mind. Gohan, where have you been for the past 20 years? On the other side, Song Yifei asked curiously, but she saw Gohan's contemplative face and was unwilling to answer her question. Song Yifei's expression quickly changed and finally said faintly, "Do you still hate me? Hate you?" Gohan gave Song Yifei a meaningful look. "It depends on whether you have done anything harmful to human beings. If you haven't, we can still be friends. If you do, I'll kill you myself." What could be considered as harming humans? Song Yifei blinked at Gohan and asked, "Have you ever hurt a human being?" Gohan asked Song Yifei directly. "No." Song Yifei answered without hesitation. "Then have your indirect actions harmed any humans? Or did your actions indirectly lead to a crisis, and this crisis led to the deaths of humans?" Gohan asked again. "Why do you care so much? In the past 20 years, I either stayed in Mingyuan City to cultivate or went out to look for you." "I didn't." Song Yifei suddenly choked. After a while, he snorted and said, "I just went out to see if you were dead. If you were dead, I would bury your bones as a friend." "Thank you." Of course, Gohan could tell that Song Yifei did not mean what he said, so he nodded and thanked Song Yifei gratefully. "I don't need your thanks. I didn't look for you." "I don't need your thanks." Song Yifei pouted. "Do you believe that I have never hurt a human being?" "Yes." Gohan nodded. "Think about it carefully. It's just what I said. I don't have any evidence to prove that I'm telling the truth. If you find out that I'm lying in the future, don't regret it." Song Yifei said meaningfully. "If I find out that you're lying, it won't be too late for me to kill you." Gohan's answer made Song Yifei pout again. "Alright, we'll talk about this later. Tell me now, why did your master ask you to wait here? Or rather, how did she know that I was coming back so quickly and asked you to wait for me here?" Gohan asked the question that he was most concerned about. "How would I know? Master doesn't tell me everything. Besides, didn't you just escape from the seamless corridor? Master told me to come here a month ago. I think I was either a blind cat running into a dead mouse, or Master has mastered the art of prophecy and can predict the time and place of your return." Song Yifei stuck out his tongue. "It might not be a prophecy." Gohan shook his head. "Your master might have gone to the future. Did your master ask you to wait for me here? Did she tell you anything else?" Gohan asked again. She did. Song Yifei nodded. She also said that if I met that person, I should take him to Mingyuan City. You want me to go to Mingyuan City? Gohan frowned and hesitated for a moment. Wait a few days. You know the situation in Yuzhang City now. I can't leave Yuzhang City now. After I help Yuzhang City defeat the 12 Zuwu, I'll go with you to Mingyuan City. That won't do. Master told me to bring the person I'm waiting for to Mingyuan City without delay once I meet him. Song Yifei said. That's impossible. Gohan refused decisively. We're both from Yuzhang City. You know better than me what kind of crisis Yuzhang City is facing now. Do you think I can go to Yuzhang City and ignore it? TSK, you make it sound like you can defeat the 12 Zuwu if you show up. Are you an Emperor Sword-level swordsman now? I don't think so. I haven't seen you for 20 years, and you're just a Celestial Sword-level swordsman. Do you think a Celestial Sword-level swordsman like you can defeat the 12 Zuwu? Song Yifei said disdainfully. Gohan couldn't refute this. Gohan had gained a lot of new insights into swordsmanship in the past 20 years. Compared to when he first entered the seamless corridor, he was naturally much stronger. Even if he were to face 1 or 2 desolate-level Yuan-Ko alone, Gohan was confident he could defeat them. Under the siege of 5 or fewer desolate-level Yuan-Ko, Gohan was confident he could survive. However, the problem was that Yuzhang City was currently facing the existence of 12 desolate-level Yuan-Ko. Gohan's power alone could not stop the 12 ancestral witches no matter what. Of course, Gohan wasn't stupid enough to want to defend Yuzhang City. Gohan had his own ideas. As long as I enter Yuzhang City, I will be able to kill the 12 ancestral sorcerers. Gohan said calmly to Song Yifei, the 12 Zuwus have always been scattered. This gives us a chance. I heard that Liu Yanling is already an Emperor Sword-level swordsman, and Ing Zheng has the power of a desolate-level Yuan-Ko. With my strength, the 3 of us working together, I'm confident we can kill 1 Zuwu in 3 minutes. As long as we can kill a few more Zuwu, Yuzhang City will be impregnable. Even if we can't completely kill the 12 Zuwu, I'm confident we can protect Yuzhang City. Do you think the 12 Zuwu are idiots? After 1 Zuwu dies, they will continue to scatter and give you a chance to kill them? Song Yifei's words made Gohan blush. Of course, Gohan wouldn't have thought of this. It was just that in order to get rid of Song Yifei, Gohan deliberately didn't mention this. Before Song Yifei could finish, Song Yifei continued, Plus, someone told me that Ing Zheng isn't trustworthy at all. The 12 Zuwu's disaster was caused by Ing Zheng. Do you really think Ing Zheng will work together with you to fight against the enemy? Aren't you afraid that he will stab you in the back? Just like that unlucky disciple of yours. You know about Shihua. Gohan was shocked by Song Yifei's words. Not many people should know that Shihua had been framed by Ing Zheng. How did Song Yifei know such a secret? You know about your disciple too. At the same time, Song Yifei was badly startled by the cold. Weren't you trapped in the seamless corridor this entire time? How did you know that? Of course, Gohan didn't want to tell him about I Ching, so he could only say vaguely, Who am I? Nothing in the world can be hidden from me. If you are really that powerful, then don't be trapped in the seamless corridor for 20 years if you have the ability. Song Yifei rolled his eyes at Gohan. Come on, aren't you curious about how I know about your disciple? To tell you the truth, it was your disciple who told me about it. Of course I know. What did you say? Gohan's expression changed. He grabbed Song Yifei's shoulders with both hands and asked agitatedly. It seems that in your heart, your cheap disciple is much more important than me. Song Yifei muttered in his heart as he felt the huge force coming from his shoulders. What did I do in my life to know so many annoying guys? My life was almost ruined by this guy. No. It's not a matter of importance. Guhan quickly let go of Song Yifei's shoulders and sighed. I owe my unlucky disciple too much. If I hadn't forced so many things on her, she wouldn't have encountered so many things. I'm the one who hurt her. I feel sorry for her. Then do you feel sorry for me? Song Yifei looked at Guhan with bright eyes, looking forward to Guhan's answer. Yes. I didn't care enough for you, so you sigh. Guhan said with a guilty look. Hearing Guhan's words, Song Yifei's expression finally eased. He snorted softly. It's good that you know. Then, he opened the void door and said, Your disciple is not dead. She is now in our Mingyuan city. There are more than 100,000 sword-bearers in Yuzhong City. Even if they don't resist, with the super-dimensional wall system, it won't be a problem to defend for a month or two. But if you don't come with me, I'm afraid your disciple won't live for more than a week. Do you think that I, Guhan, am someone who can be threatened? Guhan shrugged his shoulders. Although he was unhappy, he could only follow behind Song Yifei and enter the Gate of Void. Guhan could indeed be threatened. Chapter 1470. Mingyuan City was a small city established by Mingyuan Jiandi after he betrayed the humans. In terms of size, it was about the same as a county-level city before the apocalypse. Mingyuan City was located on the ruins of Gilan City. It was the entrance to a naturally formed dimensional rift. As long as one entered the rift, they would be able to enter the world of Mingyuan City. However, this city didn't have thick and huge walls like the human base cities. It didn't even have a small fence. The entire city was completely open, just like a normal city before the apocalypse. This was because neither the humans nor the Yuan Ko had taken the initiative to attack Mingyuan City. If the two of them wanted to attack, Mingyuan City wouldn't be able to resist. Mingyuan City's structure was very strange. Not only did some Yuan Ko live in Mingyuan City, but there were also some humans living here. The Yuan Ko and humans lived very peacefully, which was rare. There were no disputes. This puzzled the humans. They didn't know why this was happening. When Guhan stepped into Mingyuan City, Guhan suddenly figured out the reason. The moment he entered Mingyuan City, Guhan was surprised to find that his restless desire to kill all humans, including Song Yifei, had been completely suppressed. It was as if it had completely disappeared. This caused Guhan to be greatly surprised. At the same time, because Yuan Ko and humans could live together peacefully, Mingyuan City naturally had a commercial nature. Some fearless human merchants or even some sword-bearers would sneak into Mingyuan City and trade with Yuan Ko. They would trade items that only humans could produce for items that were extremely precious to humans from Yuan Ko. It was said that one could even buy some natural sword maidens in Mingyuan City. These were left behind by the sword-bearers who died in the hands of Yuan Ko. Natural sword maidens were useless to Yuan Ko, so it was better to trade them for some human-made electronic equipment or exquisite food. Yuan Ko also liked hovercraft. Yuan Ko had no way of opening the dimensional pockets of humans. Yuan Ko couldn't take out the things inside, so he could only trade with some human merchants. It was also worth mentioning that dimensional pockets were also the favorite trade item of human merchants. If these dimensional pockets were handed over to the Sword Committee, they could be exchanged for a sizable reward. After all, the materials needed to make dimensional pockets were getting fewer and fewer. Moreover, after the Sword Committee opened the dimensional pockets, they could often obtain many unexpected and precious items. It was precisely because of such an important commercial nature that humans and Yuan Ko urgently needed such transactions. This was how Mingyuan City managed to survive in the gap between the two. As the city lord, Mingyuan Jiandi adopted an indifferent attitude towards this. However, there was only one condition. Unless they had Mingyuan Jiandi's approval, humans and Yuan Ko were not allowed to stay in Mingyuan City for more than a week. Otherwise, they would be driven away. If they didn't leave, they would be killed on the spot. After entering Mingyuan City, Guhan found that there were no high-rise buildings in the city at all. The tallest residential building was only a 3-story building. Moreover, this small building was made of wood. There were no traces of cement in the entire city. Even the roads were paved with bluestone. When he first arrived at Mingyuan City, Guhan thought that he had traveled back more than 1,000 years to the medieval era. Thanks to his 5 years of living in another dimensional world, Guhan had a very good understanding of human culture and history that had disappeared for a long time. He was no longer the unlucky child who had been scourged by the great cultural collapse and was full of all kinds of ridiculous fallacies. At this time, Mingyuan City was very deserted. Apart from some humans and Yuanko who were peeking their heads out of the houses, there were very few pedestrians on the street. It was as if winter had arrived in Mingyuan City. Since the resurrection of the 12th Zhu Wu, Mingyuan City has become like this. Without human caravans and Yuan Ko's reluctance to come here, the whole city has naturally become deserted. But this is good. Mingyuan City is still the most beautiful after it has become deserted. Only in Mingyuan City can one see the endless, beautiful scenery without walls. If possible, I really hope to live in Mingyuan City forever, Song Yifei said with a sigh. Understood. Guhan nodded. This is a place that is truly suitable for humans to live in. Base cities and whatnot are all deformed and distorted worlds. If there is no Yuan Ko in this world, then there should be many small cities like Mingyuan City. There is no Yuan Ko. How can there not be? Song Yifei sighed. He then pointed to the tallest building in the center of Mingyuan City, which was a 7-story wooden pagoda. That is where my master lives. She is waiting for you there. Let's go. Okay. Guhan nodded his head. He didn't fear the Netherira's Sword Emperor, but he was curious. Just what kind of existence was this traitor of the human race that had been praised and criticized so much? Although Guhan had met Mingyuan Jiandi 20 years ago, Guhan didn't have the time to see Mingyuan Jiandi's true face. He only knew that she was a beautiful woman. Now Guhan could finally get close to this legendary existence. Unlike Jiandi's palace, which had a large number of servants and maids, there were not many people in this Mingyuan tower. Apart from a sleepy old man on the first floor and a few workers with hammers and screws, who were repairing the Mingyuan tower on their way upstairs, there was no one else. As if he could see the doubt in Guhan's mind, Song Yifei added, "My master lives a very simple life. She rarely comes out of the tower, so she doesn't need servants to serve her. No one can assassinate her. Therefore, the carpenters who repair the tower are the most common people in the Mingyuan tower. It is said that these carpenters are the descendants of the carpenters who built the Mingyuan tower. They have been living here for generations, and they have long gotten used to life in Mingyuan City, where there is no war or danger. Sometimes I think they are the luckiest people, even luckier than the sword-bearers. The peace they enjoy from generation to generation is a kind of happiness that we humans can never understand." Song Yifei said, "If your master is really like what you said, why did she try to bewitch Iwenjun? Why did she bring you here and kill Luana? He even wanted to kill Luana. That's not what a person who wants to live a peaceful life would do." Guhan was not confused by Song Yifei's words, but said coldly, "Why are you like this? I am willing to be my master's apprentice, just like your precious apprentice." By killing Luana, his master just wanted to take back what belonged to him. As for Iwenjun, Song Yifei could not continue to argue when it came to Iwenjun, because he did not know how to defend Iwenjun. "Yes, I did want Iwenjun to kill Lu Shihua, but that's all in the past. I don't have any intention to kill Lu Shihua now. You can ask Yifei about this. If I didn't make a move in the past 4 years, Lu Shihua would have been long dead." A cold voice suddenly came from the top of the pagoda. Guhan raised his head and saw a beautiful woman who looked to be about 35 years old walking down. She was dressed in white and had a pair of white jade-like feet. She looked like she was about 35 years old. Your Majesty Mingyuan Jiendi. Gohan bowed slightly to Mingyuan Jiendi. That was all. Your Majesty Mingyuan Jiendi. Song Yifei directly bowed to Mingyuan Jiendi. After all, he was her master. Since you're here, come in with me. I can answer any questions you have. Mr. Pacifier. Mingyuan Jiendi said lightly. Gohan was shocked. Mingyuan Jiendi actually knew the words, pacifier. It seemed that Mingyuan Jiendi knew more than he thought. The mystic Iris Sword Emperor's room was located on the highest floor of the pagoda. The entire floor was split into 7 or 8 rooms. None of the doors were closed. Gohan noticed that one of them was a bedroom with a television, and the other was a spacious room used for sword practice. The rest of the rooms were filled with all sorts of entertainment equipment, such as treadmills, dance machines, claw machines, computers, virtual reality helmets, and so on. Almost all of the common entertainment equipment for humans could be found here. Moreover, it was very complete. There was even a movie room that was specially set up for movies. The equipment used to play movies was the highest quality that humans had ever seen. I don't like to go out. I always find something to do at home, so do these things make you feel strange? Mingyuan Jiendi said lightly. Understandable. Gohan shrugged. Then, under the leadership of Mingyuan Jiendi, they entered the middle room. In this room, there were no messy things like the previous rooms. There were only a few rattan chairs, a rattan tea table, a teapot, and a few teacups. The only thing that made Gohan feel a little strange was probably a black crystal suspended on the ceiling of this room. In this black crystal, Gohan could clearly feel a pressure, which was suppressing the filthy desire in his body. Chapter 1471. This belongs to a big shot. It has the power to suppress filth. As long as this thing is here, the killing desire brought by filth will be completely suppressed. This is also the reason why my Yuan Ko can live in harmony with humans. Mingyuan Jiendi took the initiative to explain when he saw Gohan's eyes fall on the black crystal. Something belonging to a big shot? Which big shot? Gohan asked curiously. He should be considered quite a big shot. At the very least, he's a little older than me and you. The Ming Iris Sword Emperor smiled. That's quite big. Gohan smiled slightly, but his eyes were completely fixed on the black crystal. After looking for a long time, Gohan's eyes suddenly twitched unconsciously. He then asked Mingyuan Jiendi, "Can I touch it?" "Up to you." Mingyuan Jiendi said indifferently. Gohan touched the black crystal with his hand. The moment his hands touched the black crystal, Gohan immediately retracted his hand. At the same time, his forehead was covered with beads of sweat. At the moment of contact, Gohan felt as if this black crystal was going to absorb his soul. In fact, when Gohan checked his body and mind, he was surprised to find that about 1,000 of his consciousness fragments had disappeared. The consciousness fragments themselves were split from his soul. Obviously, these missing consciousness fragments were absorbed by this black crystal, completely cutting off the connection with Gohan and disappearing without a trace. This is a crystal that can swallow consciousness fragments, Gohan said in a slightly surprised tone. This was the first time that Gohan had encountered something that could swallow consciousness fragment. Oh, you can actually say the words consciousness fragment. It seems that I found the right person this time. Hearing the words consciousness fragments from Gohan's mouth, Mingyuan Jiendi suddenly laughed happily. You still don't know if I'm the person you're looking for? Gohan said with a frown. Almost. I was 70% sure that it was you before. Since you can say the words consciousness fragments, I'm 90% sure. Mingyuan Jiendi nodded and said, In fact, I'm not afraid to tell you that at the beginning, I thought this person was Lu Anna, but I was wrong. Later, I thought it was Song Yifei, but I was wrong again. A few years ago, I thought that Lu Shihua was the right target, but now she is about to die. In the end, I found out that all three of them are related to you. Only then did I realize that I have made a huge mistake. My real target should be you, Guhan. Mingyuan Jiandi sighed and said, Unfortunately, if I had found this 20 years ago, I would have brought you directly to Mingyuan City at that time, and there wouldn't be so many problems. Guhan was completely shocked by Mingyuan Jiandi's words. Guhan had never expected that Mingyuan Jiandi's recent actions were actually to find him, and that Song Yifei, Lu Shihua, and Lu Anna were all involved because of him. At the same time, Guhan paid attention to Song Yifei's expression and found that when Mingyuan Jiandi said that she found the wrong person, Song Yifei's expression did not change at all. Obviously, he had already known this. However, Song Yifei still stayed by the Netheriris Sword Emperor's side. It seemed like Song Yifei had really taken the Netheriris Sword Emperor as his master. What on earth do you want to find me for? Since you've found me, you can tell me now. Guhan looked at Mingyuan Jiandi and said, There's no hurry. Since you've seen this black crystal and touched it, what do you think this black crystal is in nature? Mingyuan Jiandi suddenly asked. I might not be able to tell by looking at it, but once I touch it, I know that this is an Imperial Zerg. Guhan said calmly. Yes, that's right. This black crystal was actually an Emperor Zerg dimensional crystal. However, compared to a normal Imperial Zerg, this black crystal had obviously undergone some special mutation, so it had become completely different from a normal Imperial Zerg. It appeared to be black as charcoal, but this black crystal was still an Imperial Zerg. To be precise, this is 12 Imperial Zergs. This is a combination of 12 Imperial Zergs. Mingyuan Jiandi said. 12. Guhan had to admit that he was shocked again. An Imperial Zerg could create a base city that could protect tens of millions of people. Ever since the apocalypse, the total number of Imperial Zergs that humans had obtained did not exceed 20, but there were 12 of them here. Where did Mingyuan Jiandi get so many Imperial Zergs? Guhan's voice suddenly rang out. Back then, the mystic Iris Sword Emperor had chased after Lu Anna for an Imperial seed. Is the Imperial Zerg that you obtained 20 years ago one of these 12? Guhan suddenly asked. That's right. That Imperial Zerg is the 12th Imperial Zerg here. 25 years ago, this black crystal couldn't hold on any longer. I spent a lot of effort to find an Imperial Zerg, but that little girl stole it from me. If she wasn't my target, I would have killed her. I wouldn't have given her a chance to escape. I wasted 3 years of my time for nothing. Mingyuan Jiandi sighed. However, Imperial Zergs are getting more and more difficult to use. One Imperial Zerg could last for 100 years, but now that 20 years have passed, this thing is almost full again. If I don't find the 13th Imperial Zerg in 10 years, I'm afraid this crystal will explode. Mingyuan Jiandi was collecting Imperial Zergs to maintain the existence of this black crystal. Guhan's confusion was finally solved. However, at the same time, a new question arose. Why did Mingyuan Jiandi protect this black crystal so much, even spending so much effort to find precious Imperial Zergs? Could it be what will happen if this black crystal explodes? Will your immortality come to an end? Guhan asked calmly. Immortality? And? Mingyuan Jiandi was taken aback. Then, a disdainful smile appeared at the corner of his lips. I thought you weren't an ordinary person, but it seems like you are. Do you really think that immortality is a fortunate thing for me? If I told you that I actually wish that I could die immediately at every moment, would you believe me? Mingyuan Jiandi suddenly asked. I believe you. Guhan nodded. Some people wished that they could live forever, such as Yingzheng. However, some people chose to commit suicide after experiencing a long life, such as the Yuan Ko who committed suicide in the Seamless Corridor. Sigh, if it wasn't for someone's request, I wouldn't have been tortured for hundreds of years, and I wouldn't have been labeled as a traitor to humanity. The demonic Iris Sword Emperor sighed. His snow-white face blushed a little. He took another deep look at the black crystal and said, "Do you know why an imperial zerg is added to this black crystal every few decades? With the addition of imperial zergs, the crystal's size increases, and its capacity naturally increases as well. Her Majesty Mingyuan just said that if it doesn't increase, it will explode. So, I'm guessing that this black crystal is used to contain something, and the Imperial Zergs can increase the capacity of this black crystal. Am I right?" Guhan said. "That's right. Very right. Then, why don't you guess what this black crystal is used to contain?" Mingyuan Jiandi did not want to let Guhan go, and continued to let Guhan guess. "What's so hard to guess? Since this black crystal can suppress filth, it must be related to filth. So, if I'm not wrong, the thing this black crystal absorbs should be filth." After making this guess, Guhan was actually a little hesitant. "You're really smart. You're right, this black crystal is used to absorb filth." Mingyuan Jiandi waved his hand, and the black crystal floated in Mingyuan Jiandi's hand. At the same time, Mingyuan Jiandi waved his long white sleeves again, and the entire room instantly became dark. At the same time, blue light ribbons that looked like auroras floated into the room from all directions, and finally, they were all absorbed by the black crystal. Guhan noticed that there were not many blue ribbons, only 2 or 3 blue ribbons flew in every minute. Humans seem to have all holed up in Yuzhong City now, so they don't even have the interest to go out and fight Yuan Ko. If it was in normal times, the number of light ribbons would be 10 times more than now. Mingyuan Jiandi smiled bitterly. "Are these light ribbons filth?" Guhan hesitated for a moment, and took the initiative to ask. "Yes, these blue ribbons are filth." Mingyuan Jiandi nodded very readily, and pointed to the blue ribbons that were still slowly floating into the window, and said, "Each of these blue ribbons is the filth in Yuan Ko's body. Every time Yuan Ko dies, their bodies and flesh can return to their original world, but the filth can't be taken away. In the end, it can only be collected by me, the garbage collector, and stored in this black crystal. Actually, I hope that you descendants fight less and kill less Yuan Ko, so that I don't have to worry about how to increase the capacity of this black crystal every day. I'm so pitiful." After Mingyuan Jiandi finished complaining, he gently pushed his hand, and the black crystal flew back to its original position. At the same time, the light in the room was restored, and the blue ribbons disappeared again. "Oh my God! So all the filth is concentrated here." Filth was a very difficult thing to observe. For a long time, humans did not even know about the existence of filth. It was said that the existence of filth was only known to humans after Artoria's betrayal. For humans, filth was something that could not be seen or touched, and even Emperor sword wielders could not sense it. So when Yuan Ko died, humans could only see Yuan Ko's body disappear with the dimensional vortex, but they never knew where the filth in Yuan Ko's body went. They could only roughly guess that the filth was absorbed by the dimensional vortex, or simply dissipated into the air. They never imagined that all the filth in the world would come to Mingyuan City, to this black crystal. Chapter 1472. For a long time after that, Guhan fell into silence. He needed some time to sort out the thoughts in his mind. What happens if this black crystal can't hold it anymore and explodes? Guhan finally asked after a long silence. "I don't know." Mingyuan Jiandi spread his hands. "I only know that this black crystal can absorb filth. However, once it reaches its limit and explodes, I don't know what will happen. The person who handed this black crystal to me did not tell me what the immediate consequences would be. However, he left behind this sentence. Once this black crystal explodes, the world will never be at peace. Yuan Ko and humans will never be free. Just because of this sentence, I've traveled all over the world for hundreds of years. While bearing the infamy, I've tried my best to find Emperor Zergs to extend the life of this black crystal. My life has been tough." Mingyuan Jiandi sighed. his face revealing a sorrowful expression. In that case, Mingyuan Jiandi, not only did you not betray humanity, but you've also made a huge sacrifice for humanity. Gohan looked at the sorrowful Mingyuan Jiandi and shook his head in disbelief. Mingyuan Jiandi, you could have told everyone about this. At the same time, you could have handed over the task of protecting this black crystal to all of humanity. Why did you have to bear all of this alone? You believe what I say, but will other humans believe what I say? Mingyuan Jiandi shook his head. This kind of thing is not something that can be trusted with just a sentence from me. This black crystal consumes 1 to 2 Emperor Zergs almost every 100 years. Humans are greedy and distrustful. How can they keep sending precious Emperor Zergs into this bottomless pit? Moreover, no one, including me, knows what the real outcome of this black crystal will be after it explodes. What if I was deceived back then? What if the black crystal explodes and humans are freed? Mingyuan Jiandi sneered. Forget it. If I let all the humans guard it, it might have exploded a long time ago. It's better for me, a guy who can't die, to keep looking after it. I've lived for a long time anyway, and I have nothing better to do. Without the urging of this black crystal, I'm afraid I'd be bored to death. Gohan didn't reply. Out of consideration for human nature, Gohan had to admit that Mingyuan Jiandi's words would most likely come true. Humans had no interest in protecting a black crystal for hundreds of years without knowing what the outcome would be. If Your Majesty Mingyuan Jiandi is unwilling to continue protecting it, you can give this black crystal to me. I promise that I will protect it forever. Mingyuan said as he looked at the black crystal. Gohan really wanted this black crystal, because if this black crystal could really absorb filth, then could the filth in his body also be absorbed by this black crystal? Don't even think about it. This black crystal can only absorb the filth in a dead guy's body. For a living Yuan Ko like you, the filth in your body can't be absorbed. Mingyuan Jiandi said bluntly, seeing through Gohan's thoughts again. The next moment, Gohan and Song Yifei's expressions changed at the same time. How do you know that there's filth in my body? It was Gohan's voice. Gohan, what's wrong with you? Are you really filth? It was Song Yifei's voice. Of course I know. Mingyuan Jiandi curled his lips slightly. Then, under the gaze of Gohan and Song Yifei, he slowly opened his white dress and revealed his snow-white bunnies in front of everyone. Then, he lifted the bunnies up, and a small black hole appeared in front of Gohan's eyes. You are also filth. Seeing the small black hole below Mingyuan Jiandi's bunnies, Gohan understood everything. It turned out that Mingyuan Jiandi was the same as him. They were both filth-infected. Humans always said that I betrayed them and became a Yuan Ko. Actually, they weren't wrong. Back then, I really couldn't enter the super-dimensional wall system. I was blocked outside by the city that gave birth to me and raised me. I am indeed a Yuan Ko. I have never denied this. I am indeed a Yuan Ko. Mingyuan Jiandi put his clothes back on and said calmly. Clearly, after hundreds of years of tempering, Mingyuan Jiandi was able to accept everything very calmly. After obtaining this black crystal, I tried countless methods. I even dug out my own heart and used this black crystal to replace it, but the filth was still firmly rooted in my body. So, in the end, I gave up. There was no hope for me. Mingyuan Jiandi still calmly said what could be described as hysterical behavior in the past. Gohan was silent. Then how did you know that my body was filth-infected? You entered the seamless corridor and escaped, didn't you? Mingyuan Jiandi gave Gohan a meaningful look, then shrugged. Coincidentally, I also escaped from the seamless corridor. What? Gohan's eyes widened as he stared at Mingyuan Jiandi. Is that strange? I remember there were records in history that I stayed in the palace alone for 10 years, right? Mingyuan Jiandi revealed a disdainful sneer. Do you think a normal human can stay in one place for 10 years without moving, not even leaving the door? Do you think this is a torture that a normal human can endure? So, you actually stayed in the seamless corridor for the past 10 years. Gohan quickly regained his composure after recovering from his shock. You also stayed in the seamless corridor. You know as well as I do what kind of place it is. On the surface, it looks like it was 10 years, but in reality, I only stayed in there for 3 days. Don't look at me like that. Although I don't know how many years you were tortured in there, I really only stayed for 3 days. Mingyuan Jiandi laughed. Then it's not strange. No wonder the Yuan Ko I met in the seamless corridor said that I was the only human they had seen. So you only stayed there for 3 days. Could it be that the other Yuan Ko don't have any impression of you? Sometimes you don't even see a single living person in there for 3 years. Gohan sighed in a low voice. In these 3 days, I only met one person. Mingyuan Jiandi revealed a reminiscing expression. It was a pitiful person who wanted to search for her memories. She said that this was her second time entering the seamless corridor. She wanted to find the memories that had been erased the last time she entered the seamless corridor. Unfortunately, even though she returned to the seamless corridor, she still couldn't find the memories she was looking for. Creak, creak. After Mingyuan Jiandi finished speaking, Sami Fei was surprised to find that Gohan's hand was gripping the armrest of the rattan chair so tightly that the entire rattan chair was creaking. The person you mentioned, what was her name? Gohan asked with his head lowered. Artoria, the former King Arthur, is now a pitiful person who has lost her soul. She said that she had a daughter for no reason, but she didn't know who the father of this daughter was, so she just wanted to find this daughter's father and ask him what happened in the seamless corridor all those years ago. Mingyuan Jiandi said lightly. Then what happened to you guys? Gohan continued to ask with his head lowered. She asked me to put her in a dimensional pocket. She said that this way, the two of us could be together and wouldn't be separated by the changes in space and time in the seamless corridor. Just like that, I spent an entire day with her. Afterwards, the entire seamless corridor began to tremble violently. Space-time, which was supposed to change every hour, suddenly began to change every minute. The two of us didn't expect things to turn out like this, and so we were still separated by the changing space-time. After that, I heard the loud laughter of an old man, who called himself Old Lord Taishang. He said that he was finally free, and then the entire seamless corridor completely fell apart. I was knocked out by the violent changes in space and time, and when I woke up, I found myself in another dimension. That dimension looked very strange. The entire world was actually made up of a few small villages. A group of people called themselves ninjas, and relied on something called chakra to fighting endlessly for the position of shadow. However, their strength was very weak, and the strongest was only at the level of the meteor Yuan Ko. A mere 9-tailed demon fox actually became a top-notch demon beast there. I was vexed, so I just slashed a few times and destroyed all the ninja villages. I gathered all the ninjas together as my subordinates and played for a few years. Then, I discovered that a dimensional rift had opened in that world, and I prepared something called a vortex to bring over. I had an idea and followed that vortex into the dimensional rift. I finally returned to this world, but the result was that my body was infected by filth when I transmigrated through the dimension. When I returned to Yuzhong City, I couldn't hold back my desire to kill and killed hundreds of humans near the gate. It was only then that I realized that I was no longer the original me. I was no longer the dignified Mingyuan Jiandi. I was already Yuan Ko Mingyuan. When Mingyuan Jiandi finished speaking, her expressionless face suddenly became filled with tears. Although these tears were quickly blown away by Mingyuan Jiandi's sword chi, the melancholy flame in her heart could not be extinguished no matter what. Do you have wine? I want a sip. I haven't had wine in a long time. Mingyuan Jiandi said to Gohan. Yes. Gohan thought for a moment and took out a bottle of Etion's favorite Red Star Erguotu, which he couldn't bear to drink for more than 100 years, and gave it to Mingyuan Jiandi. Sigh, it's still too young. Mingyuan Jiandi took a big gulp and smacked her lips in dissatisfaction, but she still quickly finished the whole bottle in one go. Chapter 1473. Gohan gave Mingyuan Jiandi a deep look. Before he had come here, before he had spoken to Mingyuan Jiandi, Gohan would never have imagined that Mingyuan Jiandi was actually an existence on the same level as himself. It was actually because of the seamless corridor that she had become Yuan Ko. This completely explained why Mingyuan Jiandi had betrayed humanity. It wasn't that Jiandi wanted to betray humanity. Rather, Mingyuan Jiandi had no choice but to betray humanity. She couldn't survive in the human world any longer. What about himself? However, Gohan wasn't a sentimental person. This bit of worry was quickly tossed aside by Gohan. At the same time, Gohan was rather bothered by what Mingyuan Jiandi had encountered in the seamless corridor. Based on what Mingyuan Jiandi had said, Gohan estimated that Mingyuan Jiandi had entered the seamless corridor at the same time that he had left it. But Mingyuan Jiandi had said that he had met Artoria. Who would have thought that Artoria would actually return to the seamless corridor? What the hell was going on? Gohan pondered for a moment, then asked, "Did Artoria say anything to you? Does she really not remember anything?" "Miss Artoria and I only met by chance. She wouldn't say anything to me, and even if she did, she probably wouldn't tell me the truth. How would I know so much?" Mingyuan Jiandi shook his head. Just as Gohan was feeling a bit disappointed, Mingyuan Jiandi continued, "But what's interesting is that I actually met Artoria again in the real world. However, at that time she was clearly still under the control of that filth, and she was causing trouble here. It just so happened that the mayor of the Free Metropolis was a guest here, so he helped me take care of this fellow. The mayor of the Free City is really a good person. He actually removed the filth from Artoria's body, which led to the story of Artoria's betrayal of the Martyr's Palace. Now that you mention it, it's really interesting." Mingyuan Jiandi laughed. "The source of all this is you." Gohan was dumbfounded. He never thought that the reason why Artoria could break free from the control of filth was because of Jiandi, the Mingyuan. But if that was the case, then what was going on in the dungeon's storyline? My guess is that all of the Yuan Ko members in the seamless corridor were simultaneously thrown out into different dimensional worlds. That Artoria was most likely thrown into another dimensional world as well. As for exactly which point in time and which dimensional world, only God knows. Is that so? Gohan didn't say anything else. He had already saved Artoria once, and he wouldn't save her a second time. Whether or not they would meet again was all up to fate. But we've talked about so many things, but you still haven't told me the most important thing. What's going on with this black crystal? How did you get it, and how did it come about? Gohan asked with a calm expression. I don't know who gave it to me. At that time, I discovered that I was no longer human. In my grief, I could only wander aimlessly in the wilderness. The Yuan Ko that passed by didn't attack me like before, which made me feel even more despair. Then, I unknowingly walked to the ruins of Gillen City. At the foot of Elephant Trunk Mountain, I met a woman who was fishing. Mingyuan Jiandi said faintly, "At first, I thought she was still human, but when I got closer, I discovered that while she was human, she was also a Yuan Ko. To be more precise, she was a hybrid of Yuan Ko and a human. Because I was also a half-human, half-Yuan Ko existence, I felt very intimate when I saw her. At the same time, I was very hungry, and when I saw the live fish, I couldn't help but be tempted. I asked her if I could roast some live fish to eat, but she didn't say anything, and her face was expressionless. She didn't seem to agree, but she didn't seem to refuse either. At the time, I didn't think too much about it, so I roasted the live fish for her and ate half of it, but I didn't eat hers for nothing. I took out my own ingredients and shared them with her. But when she saw me eat the fish, her expression suddenly changed. She said I was a thief and wanted me to pay her with some live fish. I couldn't be bothered to argue with her, so I used my sword key to grab a few live fish from the river for her. But she refused, and insisted on eating the fish that were exactly the same as the live fish I had just eaten, even if there was one difference. I was angry at that time. How could there be such a reason in the world? Where could I find an identical fish for her? Then the two of us started fighting, said the demonic iris sword emperor. So, Your Majesty, you won, Guhan said, blinking his eyes. I also hoped that I would win, but in the end, it was the opposite. I lost, completely, and even my underwear was lost to her. Mingyuan Jiandi said with a wry smile. In only 3 minutes, she completely defeated me. I didn't even have a chance to resist, and I was completely controlled by her. Lost. Guhan's expression changed. Mingyuan Jiandi's ability was not the strongest among the generations of Jiandi, and could even be said to be below average. However, it was impossible for Guhan to defeat an Emperor sword-level sword wielder within 3 minutes, even with his current strength. At the very least, Guhan had to be given 30 minutes. How did she defeat you, Your Majesty? Did she use some celestial skill or divine skill? Guhan asked curiously. The top Yuan Ko were almost all immortals or gods, and they all used such abilities. No, it was not celestial skill or divine skill. She did not rely on anything else to defeat me, but something that we are most familiar with as sword wielder. Mingyuan Jiandi's expression froze. Even though hundreds of years had passed, he could not help but show some fear on his face. A sword. A simple sword. Mingyuan Jiandi said with a trembling voice. It was just an ordinary sword, not even a sword mistress. It was an iron sword that was casually forged, but it defeated me. Within 3 minutes, she broke through my protective shield and put the sword on my neck. I could not resist at all, and I could only let her kill me. An expert sword user. Hearing this, Guhan's heart skipped a beat. A sudden possibility involuntarily emerged in Guhan's mind. Chapter 1474. I was in a bad mood at the time, and I was defeated by her so quickly. I had no intention of living. I only told her that I hoped she would kill me quickly so that I could be free. Mingyuan Jiandi said. Guhan nodded, indicating that he could understand Mingyuan Jiandi's feelings at the time. In the end, she let me go. She said that she was looking for me because she knew that I came out of the seamless corridor, and she even knew that there was filth in my body. She was actually waiting for me here. Then she gave me this black crystal. As soon as I held it in my hand, I found that the filth in my body seemed to have completely disappeared. I knew that this black crystal was amazing. Then the woman told me that this black crystal had always been guarded by her, but she had to do something very important recently and had no time to guard this black crystal. So she asked me to guard it. The reason why she chose me was because only I could truly understand the value of this black crystal. Only I could guard this black crystal at all costs, and at the same time, search for the Emperor's seed to constantly expand the capacity of this black crystal, Mingyuan Jiandi said. So, that woman is actually the first guardian of this black crystal, and you are the second, right? Guhan said. Yes, I'm only the second. Mingyuan Jiandi nodded. But I was originally unwilling to guard this thing that troubled the Son of God, but her attitude was very firm. At the same time, she told me that as long as I was willing to guard this black crystal, then after the year 3000 AD, someone who could help me completely free myself from the misunderstanding would appear. And as long as I found that person, I could return to normal and become a normal human again. This is the reason why you are looking for me? Do you think I am the human who can help you return to normal? Guhan frowned and understood why Mingyuan Jiandi was looking for him. Well, although the woman did not tell me in detail about the person I am waiting for, she did tell me a few things. First, this human became famous after the year 3000 AD. Before the year 3000 AD, this human's reputation would not have appeared. Secondly, this human is extremely talented in swordsmanship and has a deep connection with Yuzhong City. Thirdly, this human will eventually become the leader of mankind, one of the strongest human beings. Moreover, I will naturally have a karmic connection with him. So you found Lu Anna, Song Yifei, Lu Shihua, and finally me. Gohan looked at Jiandi and said, Actually, Lu Anna is not my target. It was really a coincidence that I met her. She stole my imperial seed, so I chased after her. Unexpectedly, I found that she had good swordsmanship and directly entered Yuzhong City. At the same time, 2 sword ladies rescued her. So I suddenly found that this Lu Anna was surprisingly consistent with the 3 conditions at the beginning. She also became a sword holder after the year 3000 AD, and she also had a good talent for swordsmanship. Moreover, she was the most beloved woman of Long Jiandi. In the future, she might also become one of the leaders of mankind. She happened to meet me when I was fighting, so she really met the 3 conditions. So at that time, I wanted to directly take the imperial seed from her, but I simply let her go. At the same time, I secretly observed her to see if she was the one who could replace me. Then how did you know that she wasn't? Gohan asked curiously. Because I found someone who is more fated with me. Lu Anna smiled slightly. That person who is more fated with you is Song Yifei, right? Gohan's face darkened and Song Yifei, who was beside him, could not help but hold his breath. Yes and no. Mingyuan Jiandi shook his head and said, When I was monitoring Lu Anna, I happened to see Yifei. As a result, I found that Yifei was synchronized with the Mingyuan sword I left in Yuzhong City. This was originally a great fate between us. However, apart from this fate, it wasn't that she didn't meet the other requirements. Whether it was her leadership ability or her talent in swordsmanship, she was only slightly better than the average person. So, I knew at that time that she wasn't the person I was waiting for. But once again, I heard some silly words from this little girl. I knew that this silly girl was trapped by love, and at the same time, she kept praying to God, hoping that she could learn brilliant swordsmanship, so that she could be worthy of the man in her heart. Master, what nonsense are you talking about? I don't want to talk to you anymore. Song Yifei's face was full of shyness, but she did not dare to do anything to her master. She could only stomp her feet in shame and indignation, and then ran out of the small room as if she was running for her life. This child is so similar to me at that time. Mingyuan Jiandi sighed. At that time, my heart was filled with love for her, and she kept praying to learn brilliant swordsmanship. I simply showed up in front of her, directly revealed my identity, and proposed to accept her as an apprentice. I absolutely did not force her to make a choice. I just let her make the decision according to her own will. So, it is not her own will that she betrayed mankind and finally became your apprentice. Gohan sighed in his heart. For a long time, Gohan had thought that Song Yifei was forced. Now it seemed that he had guessed wrong. Song Yifei was not forced, it was all her own choice, and the direct trigger of this choice was probably himself. Yifei is actually a very pitiful child. In the past 20 years, because of a certain person's disappearance, she traveled all over the mountains and rivers. She almost walked through the entire earth and encountered many dangers along the way that almost killed her. Tell me, who did she work hard for in the past 20 years? Mingyuan Jiandi looked deeply at Gohan and said, I know. It is all for me. Gohan admitted very straightforwardly, without any hesitation. It is good that you know. The reason why I told you these things so straightforwardly, without any difficulties or hesitation, is all because of that silly child. Can you promise me, when I can leave this world like a normal human being, to give this poor child a warm home? Mingyuan Jiandi's tone revealed a rare gentleness. to say something that may be a bit too much. My love has actually been divided into many parts. It is destined that I cannot only give it to one person. If Ife doesn't mind this, I can give her a warm home," Gohan said very straightforwardly. A greedy man, Ife is really a silly child. Minuan Jiendi glared at Gohan fiercely. "Don't be so optimistic. Let me tell you, you can only love Ife, otherwise don't even think about, Master. I'm willing, just having a place in Gohan's family is enough. This disciple really doesn't ask for too much." Before Minuan Jiendi finished his threat, the door was pushed open again, and Song Ife rushed in a panic, then knelt in front of Minuan Jiendi and said, "Idiot." Minuan Jiendi rolled his eyes and almost fainted on the cane chair. Chapter 1475. After a while, Song Ife was driven away by Minuan Jiendi. Minuan Jiendi continued to talk about the topic with Gohan. Later, I set my sights on Lu Shihua and found that she was the most suitable candidate. However, I was busy at the time, and that Yi Wenjun took the initiative to find me. He also wanted to become my disciple. I just casually asked her to find a way to invite Lu Shihua to my Mingyuan city. As for what Yi Wenjun did to your disciple, I don't know. However, I haven't seen Yi Wenjun since then. I heard that you imprisoned him. Is that true? Minuan Jiendi asked Gohan. Yes. Gohan's heart skipped a beat. He had completely forgotten about Yi Wenjun. Ever since he imprisoned him outside Changyang Mountain 21 years ago, he had never cared about him again. Although he did order Yuan Ko's memory fragments in Changyang Mountain to feed Yi Wenjun 3 times a day, it was hard to imagine that Yi Wenjun could still live normally after being imprisoned for more than 20 years. Therefore, it was hard to imagine that Yi Wenjun could still live normally after being imprisoned for more than 20 years. Therefore, Gohan immediately contacted the trial formation in Changyang Mountain through the Jasper ring in his hand and found the prison where Yi Wenjun had been imprisoned. He was surprised to find that Yi Wenjun was still alive. Although he was in a mess and was lying on the ground like a dead dog, there was no doubt that he was still alive. Thinking of Yi Wenjun and many things that had happened at that time, Gohan had a lot of doubts in his heart. If you really asked Yi Wenjun to bring Lu Shihua to you, why did Yi Wenjun kill Lu Shihua and the others? Why did he even kill other innocent people? Wasn't that your order, your majesty? Gohan asked with squinted eyes. I never asked Yi Wenjun to kill anyone. The Netheriris Sword Emperor shook his head. Actually, I sent Yi Wenjun to look for Lu Shihua because I wanted to send him away. After all, my disciple said that she doesn't like him, but he keeps pestering her. If he was an ordinary person, I could have killed him, but he was the only descendant of Zhetian Jiendi. How could I have the heart to kill him? Therefore, I had to find a reasonable reason to send him away. If what you said was true, your majesty, how do you explain the black sword in Yi Wenjun's hand? Gohan asked. I did give him one of my black swords, but that's just a clone. What happened to the sword? That's right, I remember that the sword hasn't returned to me yet, and I've completely lost contact with the sword. Shouldn't the sword be imprisoned by you as well? That sword was destroyed by me, along with the fragments of consciousness inside it. I made it return to its original form. Gohan said lightly. What consciousness fragment? My sword was just a simple keepsake, used to protect him from being killed by some Yuan Ko. Since when did my black sword have my consciousness fragment inside it? Minuan Jiendi looked at Gohan strangely and asked. Don't tell me the consciousness fragment hidden in the sword isn't yours? Gohan was also shocked by Minuan Jiendi's words. Gohan clearly remembered that he had heard the black sword speak, and the black sword had indeed called itself Minuan Jiendi. The consciousness fragment inside it had also been destroyed by Gohan himself. These were all things that Gohan had done, it couldn't be fake. It wasn't me. Minuan Jiendi said resolutely. You don't know how difficult and painful it is to split a consciousness fragment. I've spent so much effort to only split a few dozen consciousness fragments, and they're all used to save my life at critical moments, or as protective talismans for my descendants. How could I just casually put it on a black sword? Do you think the consciousness fragment of an emperor sword wielder is so worthless? Is it so difficult to split a consciousness fragment? Gohan asked subconsciously. It's easy for this kid to say, but I'm afraid you don't even know how to split a consciousness fragment. This isn't something that an immortal sword wielder like you can learn, Mingyuan Jiandi said disdainfully. Gohan did not directly answer Mingyuan Jiandi's question. Instead, he directly threw out a consciousness fragment, and at the same time, he attached this consciousness fragment to a piece of fat, controlling this piece of fat to make all sorts of unimaginable movement. You actually managed to split a fragment of your consciousness. To think that an immortal sword wielder would be able to do this. You have truly impressed me. I almost forgot. Previously, you already said that your fragment of consciousness had been absorbed by that black crystal. How is it? Does your heart ache a lot? There weren't many consciousness fragments in the first place, and now a piece has been absorbed by the black crystal just like that. It must be very painful for you. One had to admit that Mingyuan Jiandi's smile was very despicable. No, it's just 1,000 pieces of consciousness fragment. It's not a big deal. Gohan said lightly. Young man, it's understandable that you're bragging, but don't brag too much. 1,000 pieces of consciousness fragment. If you can split 2 or 3 pieces, that's already a very impressive thing. Mingyuan Jiandi said with a look of disdain. I'm not lying. 1,000 pieces of consciousness fragments are really nothing to me. After Gohan said that, he threw out 100,000 nanomachines at the same time, and then separated 100,000 pieces of consciousness fragments into these nanomachines. Very soon, these nanomachines began to move. Why are you throwing out so many nanomachines? You can't be trying to tell me that each nanomachine has a piece of your consciousness in it. Mingyuan Jiandi sneered. Although the nanomachines wanted to, they could not hide from the spiritual perception of a sword wielder at Jiandi's level. Mingyuan Jiandi only had to glance at them to know that Gohan had thrown out 100,000 nanomachines at once. But when Mingyuan Jiandi focused his attention on the movements of these nanomachines, Mingyuan Jiandi was completely stunned. This was because in Mingyuan Jiandi's imagination, these nanomachines should be doing uniform movements because these nanomachines were controlled by the same will. But the reality was that these 100,000 nanomachines were like 100,000 living people. Each nanomachine was doing their own actions, and not a single nanomachine was doing the same action. They were all in different states, and they were definitely not controlled by the same will. Is this really 100,000 pieces of consciousness fragments? Mingyuan Jiandi raised his head abruptly. For the first time, Gohan saw fear in Mingyuan Jiandi's eyes. Chapter 1476. How many consciousness fragments do you have now? Mingyuan Jiandi suddenly asked Gohan seriously. It's not too much. About 10 billion yuan. Gohan replied calmly. Previously, in order to control the humans in the entire dimensional world, Gohan had to split his consciousness fragments as much as possible. There were 10 billion people in the world, so Gohan had to split 10 billion consciousness fragments. Hence, there were indeed 10 billion consciousness fragments in Gohan's mind. Mingyuan Jiandi was completely speechless. He looked at Gohan as if he was looking at a monster. After looking at him for a full 10 minutes, Mingyuan Jiandi finally woke up from his own world and said heavily, "You are a monster. Why? Is it very difficult to split consciousness fragments?" Seeing Mingyuan Jiandi's reaction, Gohan suddenly realized that splitting consciousness fragments, which he was used to, seemed to be extraordinarily difficult in the eyes of others, or in the eyes of other Emperor sword wielders. Of course. Sword Emperor Mingyuan sighed. I've only managed to split a few dozen consciousness fragments over the past few hundred years. It's already very impressive for an ordinary sword emperor to split 10 consciousness fragments. It's said that even the sword ancestor could only split thousands of consciousness fragments. You increased it to the level of 10 billion in one go. Who would believe that? So that's how it is. This time, Guhan finally understood how awesome his ability to casually split consciousness fragments was. However, Guhan was still very curious about this consciousness fragment. Hence, he asked, "May I ask your Majesty Mingyuan Jiendi, is this consciousness fragment very important to an Emperor sword wielder? It seems like you are very concerned about the number of consciousness fragments that you can split. You actually split consciousness fragments without knowing the use of consciousness fragments." Mingyuan Jiendi looked at Guhan strangely. "Oh yes, you are now only an immortal sword wielder. It is normal that you do not understand the use of consciousness fragments. Fine, I'll tell you then. To an ordinary Emperor sword wielder, the consciousness fragment was a very useful tool. It could be used to create their own soul seal and leave behind some life-saving tools for their descendant. Or, it can be used to possess other things and display its power from thousands of miles away. This is the function of consciousness fragments under normal circumstances. Most Emperor sword wielders use consciousness fragments in this way. However, for top Emperor sword level sword wielders, or Emperor sword level sword wielders who know where their future lies, the consciousness fragment signifies how far they can go in the future. You might not believe it, but legend has it that there is a level above Emperor sword level, which is called the Saint level. If one reached this level, forget about killing all the Yuan Ko or destroying the earth. Even if you want to destroy all the dimensions, it would be a piece of cake. If you want to reach the Sage realm, consciousness fragments are the most important thing. I heard that the Sword Master once said that if a person could have 100 million consciousness fragments, he would be infinitely close to the Sage realm. As long as he could comprehend something in an instant, he could step into the Sage realm by raising his foot. Hence, people like me who have lived for a long time, or some extremely talented and arrogant Emperor sword wielder, desperately split their consciousness to have more consciousness fragments. This is their lifelong pursuit. You should understand how important the consciousness fragment is to me. I will not waste a precious consciousness fragment on a black sword. But wait, if you already have 10 billion consciousness fragments, doesn't that mean you are already? Mingyuan Jiendi suddenly thought of something and looked at Guhan in fear. Who knows? I am only a celestial sword level sword wielder now. Guhan shrugged his shoulders and changed the topic. Your Majesty, if what you said is true and you really did not attach a consciousness fragment to the black sword. But I did destroy the consciousness fragment on the black sword, so what happened? It's very simple. Mingyuan Jiendi knocked on the rattan chair. There was a person behind the scenes who replaced me and secretly let his consciousness fragment hide in my black sword. Then, he used my name to teach and seduce the unlucky child, Iwenjun. This way, he could perfectly explain why Iwenjun became like what you said. Of course, this is my explanation. It's up to you whether you believe it or not. I believe you. Guhan nodded and answered very decisively. Through his contact with Mingyuan Jiendi just now, Guhan had already felt that the consciousness fragment that he had destroyed and Mingyuan Jiendi's consciousness fragment were fundamentally different. They were not the same person's consciousness. It seemed like the truth was indeed as Mingyuan Jiendi had said. Mingyuan Jiendi had been impersonated. Interesting. Someone actually used me, Mingyuan Jiendi, to plot against you and Lu Shihua. How interesting. Who is the mastermind behind this? Mingyuan Jiendi kept drawing circles on the rattan chair. There was an angry expression on his face. He was obviously very angry at this person who had secretly impersonated him. All right, Your Majesty Ming Yuan, I think all of our previous misunderstandings have been resolved. I also admit that you've made great contributions to the human race, and we humans will never forget the hard work and pain you've gone through for the human race. However, Your Majesty Ming Yuan, the reason I followed Yi Fei here is not because I want to resolve any misunderstandings with you, but because Yi Fei told me that Shi Hua is here with you and is about to die. That's why I followed Yi Fei here. Then may I ask Your Majesty Ming Yuan, where is my apprentice? Can you take me to save her? Gohan said quickly. He found that he had unknowingly deviated from his original purpose during the conversation. He had even forgotten about the dying Lu Shihua. I wanted to chat with you for a while longer and throw this troublesome thing to you. But since you are worried about your apprentice, then let's go see your apprentice first. Mingyuan Jiandi nodded and took the initiative to get up and leave the room. Gohan followed Mingyuan Jiandi closely and followed her to the third floor of the wooden tower. They were in a small room. Yi Fei, how is Miss Lu Shihua? Mingyuan Jiandi asked Song Yi Fei, who was already in the ward. It's not good. We've almost used up all the medicine we've stored, but Miss Lu Shihua's injuries are still worsening. If we don't find a way to replenish the medical resources, Miss Lu Shihua won't be able to hold on much longer, Song Yifei said worriedly. It turned out that after Song Yifei left the room, she went directly to Lu Shihua's ward and began to take care of Lu Shihua. At this time, Gohan finally saw his precious apprentice, Lu Shihua, whom he had not seen for 20 years. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.